Yeah, that's the spot that we've been.
I think Ocean,
Worked out.
but I think Ocean Rescue's gonna have their
No,
office
isn't you don't like it, Jim?
space in there.
No, I'm just
Yeah,
organized.
Ryan has an
Organized, you know,
office,
you keep
John
things
Ryan
in
has an
order.
office in there, and
You know,
Give it up before.
I guess they,
it is for events, though, too, like community events.
Make sure you're in there.
it is a museum though, so
Good.
it's, yeah. There's a whole lease about it.
Judging what they
You could
did
say
to
not
our
to speak, just
building, I hope they're a
Listening.
little more,
You know, our building's part of it's part of a preserve. Preserve language on it,
just,
and
I
stuff
mean, they
like
have
that.
so much stuff. I hope he wipes his feet.
All right, let's stand for the pledge. Thank you. All right, we'll start with the public portion of the meeting. Kim Barber, if we have you down first.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm back again. Thanks for having me. I wanted to update you on some of the initiatives we've been working on and talk about some new plans we have in the works that we could hopefully get going this summer. So just to quickly go through. I wanted to talk first about our Marine Meadows initiative. We've done some work locally that I'll talk about, and then I want to get into some of the Back to the Bays work that we hope to do in 3 Mile and Napeague this coming year. So as I mentioned, when I was here last, we had collected those Spartina alterniflora seeds as part of our coastal restoration program, and I'm pleased to announce that we finally got together with John Ryan Jr. in the middle school, and we were able to have a whole seed tray filling party with their Surfrider club, and they were a great group of kids to work with, and we filled out about 8 flats of seeds, and that was back on April 19th. And we've had a lot of germination success. As you can see, this is what those trays look like now. So we're very happy that we'll have some new East Hampton plant stock to factor into one of the restoration projects we hopefully have coming up in the next year.
Is that a grass that can do well totally underwater?
Well, intertidal.
It's intertidal, yeah.
Okay.
So it's, you know, it's flooded, but it's not like eelgrass entirely submerged. But yep, it's
Yeah.
marsh grass. So then we made a return visit to East Hampton Middle School earlier this month to do the eelgrass portion of the work. Now these plants were destined for our Shelter Island Shoals site that this work was actually funded through the Great Peconic Race through proceeds and private donations through that work. And we got the kids involved again, and they put together about 150 of these discs, so about 1,500 plants of eelgrass. And the result of those, this kind of picture in the background there, that's the new planting that we just did about a week and a half ago. And just for comparison, this is what the plants look like from last year's planting. And you could actually see, we didn't stage it this way, but there are scallops all within, if you look closely, in our newly restored meadow. So it's doing its job as habitat.
Now, Kim, that's out in Northwest Harbor?
Yep, so
Outer
that's,
Northwest Harbor.
yeah,
From
that's
last year's
past.
project?
Exactly. So, and we hope to build upon that this year as part of that race proceeds, hopefully. And this just goes to show that's actually adjacent to the area that we're planting. That's how it looks naturally. So you could see it's very happy. It looks exactly how it should. We try to mimic how it is as far as density and how the natural meadow looks, and kind of do it in an area that hopefully all the rhizomes could keep growing together and keep that meadow expanding. So we're happy to report on the success of that. But more importantly, I want to get back to what we talked about last time I was here, doing something like this in East Hampton town waters. So that's kind of the next portion of this. As I've talked about in the past, our Back to the Bays initiative is kind of the way that we're trying to get the public and local business communities and private funders involved with work to do extensive shellfish and habitat restoration work in different sites throughout Suffolk County. And here on the east end, you could see we have a couple of these sites already established, and the idea is these are receiving areas that every year they're going to see a high density of shellfish seeding, of eelgrass planting, and whatever other restoration methodology we're doing in these areas. That's where we're seeing the most restoration success, in the sites that we're able to continually visit and keep a commitment, whether it be from private funders or supplementing that with public funding, and just keep hitting these areas, every year, and that's where we're seeing the most of our success. So you could see this is kind of the framework of areas that we've already established, and I'll just mention this is nowhere near all of the areas that we're working in, but these are the prime areas that we're kind of strategically trying to set as our continual receiving areas. So you'll see the areas in red up further by Oldfield Point and Long Island Sound. We're trying to establish a new site, and we'd really love to get Napeague kind of represented on this map as a potential area that we could do a lot of work. I know Barley's doing a lot on the shellfish front. We've been talking about ways we could collaborate and we could supplement some of the work and some of the types of restoration that he's not doing in this area, and most importantly, get habitat back there, because he also feels that that's a limiting factor in this body of water before we do any more shellfish work. Habitat is really, really important to that specific.
Now, the last time you were here, you were talking about the south end of Napeague Harbor.
Yes.
And the possibility of eelgrass plantings
Yes.
in there.
I will get to that, because that's,
Oh.
hopefully, we're trying to do a
yeah.
suitability study this summer with the goal of hopefully this fall getting some actual plants in there and really starting to visit that area every year, hopefully. So I'll move on. So again, we fund these areas through our Back to the Bays initiative. So we have a membership program that, again, it's kind of like a booster club for the Bays. So it's a $25 subscription annually, and it really helps fund all this work. So there's more information about that on our website. But through this whole initiative, we have various fundraisers and special events, and in addition to applying for public funding and grant funding as well. So I'll start with 3 Mile. This site came to our attention. We hadn't been doing anything here in a number of years. We actually do, it was traditionally one of the monitoring locations through the Peconic Estuary Program, funds us to do long-term eelgrass monitoring. And unfortunately, in a lot of these sites, we've lost most of the eelgrass in the sites that we were monitoring. So we haven't done too much habitat-wise in 3 Mile, but there's going to be a Paddle for the Bays there on June 3rd, and again, we were lucky enough to be named as the recipients for funds for that, so we're anticipating a nice dollar figure coming from that. So in trying to be strategic about what we could do in this area, as I mentioned, we're not comfortable putting plants right in the water right now. We need to understand a little bit more about the system, about what's going on there, and do one of our initial kind of site suitability studies, as I've talked about, and the main component of that is looking at submarine groundwater discharge and really finding those interfaces where the groundwater is coming up through the sediments in the bay, and we're really thinking that those will be the best areas to target restoration and also target things like permeable reactive barriers and things we've been doing in the harbor already.
Yep. I just wanted to run this by the board. The Great Peconic Race team and committee is a group of local paddle sport enthusiasts that have raised a fair amount of money for Cornell and other
Yes,
environmental
very
initiatives.
thankful for that.
And 3 Mile was selected in part due to some input from the board last year, when I think Brian mentioned that it would be nice to see one of these initiatives take place in trustee waters. So we've submitted the permits to the town, and I just wanted to make sure that the board was okay with it going off on 3 Mile Harbor as a race event, which would be based in Gardner's Marina in 3 Mile Harbor. And, I've reviewed it with Chief Michaels and Ocean Rescue. There's a full support plan in place. And all the proceeds from the event and the fundraising we've done would go to the specific project on 3 Mile Harbor. So I just wanted to make sure that the board was okay with the event taking place at that location, since it's on a trustee water body.
Seems like a good spot, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great that the money will stay there and benefit that harbor.
I don't have any specific objections right now, but I will reserve my wholehearted support until I know exactly what the initiative is going to be.
Okay, well, that's Kim's department.
Yes,
so we'll let her continue.
we'll get into a little more detail with that. So again, as mentioned, when it was discussed to try to do work in 3 Mile, as mentioned, we haven't done too much work there, so we really thought we needed to do this kind of baseline survey, and I have a couple slides about what that'll really entail. But another component of that, we wanted to do some sort of, shellfish seeding component, so I'm going to be working with Barley. We're going to try to figure out what we could do. We'll come back to the board when we have it a little more solidified. Again, this is more, we're hoping to, get the check in June, finalize the plan, and then this would be happening this summer. So I'd hope to revisit the board when we do have, the exact specs on where we want to do the study, where the transects would be, and also where the shellfish component would be happening before we actually go forward. So that takes care of 3 Mile. Napeague is kind of a similar situation. Here, as mentioned, we've done eelgrass restoration work there in the past. It hasn't been as successful as we'd like it to be because, again, we just did it for one season. It wasn't exactly where we wanted to put the plants at the time. And with doing a similar study, like I mentioned, that we want to do in 3 Mile, we think we could really hone in on the areas that it would be most successful. Also hone in on the areas that we think it would be the most strategic to do as far as integrating a shellfish component in as well. So areas where the sediment is good for eelgrass, it's also likely good for the different shellfish restoration components as well. So that kind of goes hand in hand there. And we've been working with the Art Barge and the Lazy Point Neighborhood Association on trying to get some funds together to do a similar baseline study that we want to do in 3 Mile that, again, will help us look at that groundwater discharge coming through and better pinpoint the areas we could do for restoration. And the same thing, do targeted shellfish components there as well.
Kim, some members of the public that I've spoken to about the groundwater discharge study, particularly in 3 Mile, feel that the springs in general in 3 Mile is almost like a sponge, and water tends to seep up all over the place. Is your study focusing on areas you feel have higher volumes of discharge or anything particular that makes them of interest?
Yes, exactly. We know there's a high influx there. That's, we could tell that by, historic maps, other work we've done, work USGS has done. We know that's a good area for groundwater to be coming through. So it's not an absence presence, it's a, velocity, and it's also taking samples of that groundwater, seeing what the nitrogen situation is, if there's any other, components coming through that groundwater that might make it either beneficial or detrimental to do eelgrass work in that area. But also looking at areas where it's coming through at high velocities and coming through with high nitrogen levels, because that's where we could potentially put in more of those permeable reactive barriers that are kind of just an initial, until the septic and other issues could get under control, it's kind of a first defense to get some of that nitrogen from stopping to enter the water body, which could help the eelgrass and numerous other species in the water itself. So I'll go into a little bit more of what that entails. So I know this is probably not new to you, but just to get a better understanding what I talk about when we're talking about the groundwater discharge zone. You could see it's near shore, and that's also where prime eelgrass habitat is. We're not seeing eelgrass in areas, too deep or where there's not enough light penetration coming through. So there's a big correlation between looking at where this is coming through and looking at where we could potentially do groundwater. So, this whole area, we really want to see what's coming through and the flux of nutrients as well, because that's a key part of the story. So we've done work like this in several smaller embayments and water bodies, most recently actually in Accabonac and elsewhere throughout Suffolk County. And we really are able to kind of target exactly where the highest inputs are coming from, speaking of nitrogen specifically. And using the technology we have, we're able to run these transects that look at, we basically poke holes in the bottom and take pore water samples, and then once we have a better idea of where the general groundwater is coming through, we could deploy our bigger seepage meters, which I have all pictures of. This is kind of a visual of what it entails. So we use patented technology, and our staff of very highly trained hydrogeologists and marine botanists, and we have a team of, real science-based professionals that know what they're doing. Myself included, I actually do a lot of this work myself as well. So this is our trident, we call it. This is what we stick into the bottom, and we're able to measure. We could actually pump up the pore water and get, the characterization of that water that's coming through. This is the seepage meter, which is, again, it's kind of a funnel system that sits on the bottom and actually collects the submarine groundwater discharge as it's coming up. We could collect those samples and then send them off to be analyzed. So that's kind of what it's entailed. So as you can see, it's a lot of equipment, a lot of staff time, a lot of professional expertise to both run the equipment and generate the reports that make the correlations that we need to, understand in order to better target restoration. So the findings and implications, why I keep saying how important this is, obviously, as mentioned with the eelgrass restoration sites, it's a really big key kind of component of what we're trying to learn as far as potential sites for that. We might find in certain areas, in 3 Mile and Napeague, I'm confident we'd be able to find areas to do eelgrass, but in some of the other smaller harbors or less flushed areas where there's a temperature issue or sediment issues, we're actually looking at the potential to do culture of macroalgae, so basically growing out seaweed in cage systems that we then remove, so it's filtering up that nitrogen, and then we're actually removing it from the system, so it's fully removed. There's no waste product, we're getting rid of it out of the system. So we have a proposal in actually to try to pilot this in the Pussy's Pond Aquabonic Complex, so we'll keep you posted on that too. It's kind of all conceptual at the moment, and we're hoping that that moves forward eventually.
Yeah, you do realize that's our jurisdiction.
Absolutely, yeah, we're
Okay.
working closely with Kim Shaw at the moment,
Right.
and next stop
Yeah.
is here, obviously. Yeah, it would not go any further than it is now as far as just coming up with ideas for the potential of funding that might exist. So that's where we're at now, but we won't be doing anything without your approval, don't worry.
Yeah, very much,
Purposely
yeah.
culturing algae was really recommended by a lot of scientists, and we had the water quality symposium thing a while back.
Oh, great, yeah,
And it seems like a nice idea. It's a lot of fine tuning after,
it is.
figure out
And
the work and the right species and all that.
yeah, we think that
Promise there.
working with Ulva and Gracilaria, they're two really,
Common name of that gracilaria? I don't know that one.
um,
By a scientist, yeah.
I don't know what the
Is it of a common name?
common name is. You call it but I know that the ulva, the dead man's fingers,
Yeah.
that too, and we're doing a lot of work with kelp too, but that wouldn't be applicable here.
Seaweed is a very common name, yeah.
Seaweed, macroalgae seaweed.
Oh, it's the sea lettuce. Is the ulva sea
Is
lettuce?
all-
The green, I know the ulva.
The
but
green,
gracilaria,
but there's
I'm
a,
not familiar.
yeah, there's another species of it too that we're working with. I'm sorry, I'm not the botanist
Yeah, you got dead man's
macroalgae
fingers,
expert.
Chenopodium, I think it's
Yeah,
called.
yeah,
And
yeah.
ulva's The paper, chenopodium?
Yeah, the codium,
Codium.
But yeah, we'd be, again, experimenting, I think, yeah, it's Gracilaria and Ulva for the specific species that they're working on now. I know my team is working on piloting this on a small scale. There's a lot of literature already done. Areas in the city are actually doing this too in high nitrogen areas, and there's a lot of published data that shows really good removal of nitrogen. And again, there's no byproduct. You're removing it all, whatever it's taking up, you're getting it out of there. So we're excited about, the potential of doing that, especially in areas that won't support eelgrass, which, not every area will anymore. So it's a good potential option. Doing some of our spat-on-shell oyster beds, we've been doing a lot of that as well, so that serves as excellent habitat as well. And we've been putting these out. In Shinnecock, we did some of this through the other project we were doing off of Northwest as well, so there's a potential to do something like that in our water bodies out here. Also, cultured rib mussels, we're doing a lot in our shellfish hatchery now, trying to get it down pat to grow out ribbed mussels, because again, it doesn't create that attractive nuisance as far as somebody harvesting it, so putting it in an area that's closed for shellfish might be a possibility per DEC and local jurisdictions. So we're hoping, that could be an option as well. And then again, going into the permeable reactive barrier. So you can see that here. A lot of time that's just a trench filled with wood chips that basically just break down that, nitrogen in a different form and keep it from entering into the system further. So those are all options that could come of this. But again, step one is putting those transects out, learning more about the SGD and patterns in the various water bodies. So kind of the next steps for 3 Mile, we're confident that we have the funding in place to do this study. So again, if we're all conceptually, on board with doing something like this, we could come to the board with, a specific proposal of where those transects would be, the timing, the methodology behind it, what it would all entail. So we'd hope to do that this summer, because again, we would also be putting out light and temperature loggers, and we'd want to see during the high summer months, that's the most important data for us as far as looking at temperature and how it affects visibility in the water as well. So if all goes well with all of that, and we are able to find sites that we think might be suitable, we would potentially want to put out a couple of test plots in 3 Mile too of eelgrass, just do, very small scale, just see if it, survives over winter and see if there's new growth in the spring, and then take it from there to be able to expand upon it should, funding resources and interest be all lined up to do more work there. And yeah, again, throughout the winter, based on the study that we do, we'd be able to really kind of develop some recommendations, delve into it a little bit more as far as PRBs or macroalgae or whatever direction we want it to be, and at least come up with the options, and then we could, decide what we may or may not want to do from there. For Napeague, we're in kind of a similar situation. It's interesting because I have a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant that will fund the actual restoration, but we need to do a little bit more as far as the site suitability before I could leverage that grant to doing plantings here. So all we need to come up with is about $5,000. We've come up with a couple grand so far, so we're still going to continue to fundraise if that's something the trustees are interested in supporting. We'd love support in that capacity to make sure this is able to happen. So again, we have another month or two to try to figure out what we want to do and hopefully get it in line so this October we could do some eelgrass planting in Napeague. We'd also like to, as I continue to work with Barley, and we kind of come up with a plan of how we could collectively do some work together there. We'd talk about different, shellfish applications as well. And the same thing, kind of taking next winter to really, if we're going to establish this as a Back to the Bay stewardship site, there's support of the local community. We think we could fundraise every year for it, and there's more, public money coming down as well. We're confident that we could establish this as one of our new receiving areas and keep visiting it every year and being able to tell a tale of restoration success once and for all with eelgrass and Napeague. So I think that's it. Just 2 items of note. The paddle for the bays, again, on 3 Mile, provided everyone's okay with that. That's happening on June 3rd. It's in the afternoon, so 3 p.m. registration, 4 p.m.
We don't have to
start.
do it, do we?
No, but you could just come down or promote your paddling friends. Or
I can do that.
There's a recreational course, right, Rick? What is it, a 3 miler?
3 Miler.
Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, it should be a really fun event. We'll be down there too with more information on all of this and just to kind of talk to the public about potential plans. Also, in support of some of the fundraising efforts we're trying to do more work in Napeague, we're working with Chris and the Art Barge to do a couple of programs this summer, one of them being our brushstrokes for the bays, their paint night. So similar format, you learn how to paint a marine-inspired piece of artwork, have some wine and cheese, and all the proceeds from that will be directed to efforts happening in Napeague. So we're going to work to do a lot of community awareness events and some fundraising as well, and hope we could continue moving forward with both 3 Mile and Napeague.
Could you email the trustee office a copy of your presentation?
Sure.
And when you do the testing, will the data be made available to the trustees?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. So we'll even come. I'll probably bring my team who's directly working on the project more than my assistants with it to actually really come and present the findings and what it could all mean. So we'd love to give a more robust presentation
Like
on
in the
that too.
fall or winter after?
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be data collection through September and then a little bit of time to kind of crunch everything, and definitely by fall into winter, we'd be able to come up with
But
something.
if Cornell has our conceptual approval for these 2 waterways before they actually start, we would get information on exactly where you are testing, the areas, if there's anything that's going to be on the bottom land for any length of time.
Absolutely.
just so we are ensure that there's no conflicts with some other user group.
Yep, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what today was. I just kind of wanted to introduce the concepts and make sure, because, you know, as I've mentioned in the past, it seemed like there was initial approval for us to follow through with something like this, so this is kind of the next step, and then the final step will, of course, be presenting a more detailed proposal of work.
Right, so what do you think the time frame would be to present the final proposal with sites and things like that? Is that a month out or?
Yeah,
2
within the
weeks
next
out?
month, as soon as we have that check in hand for, hopefully for the June event, and we know it's a go, you know, I've already started talking to the team initially to factor this into summer field work plans, so it's on our radar, but we all need to get into one room and with our restoration team to kind of say these are the areas where we think, you know, it'll probably be, and then also areas, and working with you guys and Kim Shaw too, where we might be able to do some of these other applications and make sure that we're doing these transects and gathering this data in areas that we would, you know, be able to do the work. We don't want to do all this only to find that we wouldn't be able to, you know, do an installation of the macroalgae cages or something like that. So we want to do all that legwork beforehand, for sure.
Kim, I just, going back to the Nat Peak project, what prevented you from using your preferred site for that?
Well, we got input from the trustees, the board at the time, and they had specific areas that they wanted us to work, and we thought it might work there. Our preferred
Okay.
would be to go, you know, further where we thought the groundwater was coming through, but we had hoped, you know, it would work in that area. The other thing that kind of prevented, I think, success is, you know, we had funding to do it that one time, and that was it.
Okay.
So we see loss at these sites, even in the most successful sites. We always see some degree of loss. The idea is the more we could keep, you know, putting attention and putting plants in these areas, the stronger that these meadows become and the more that they are happy.
Okay.
The other thing I would just like to know is, one thing it's sometimes difficult for the trustees to understand some of the conditions that are attached to grants. So if Cornell is receiving a grant from a particular organization in order to carry out these projects, I would just like to know what conditions are being imposed upon you that might or might not be beneficial from the trustee's perspective for moving forward. Sometimes it's like a certain amount of the harvest has to be given away to another entity, or, you know, just different things like that.
Sure, yeah, I mean, for this particular funding source, and I'm getting another 100,000 through the same funding source this July, so again, there's more money on the horizon, which is why I hope we can establish this, because we could I know that we have at least 2 years of funding already lined up. It's actually coming from community service payments from the Department of Justice, so it's just a check that's being written from
Is that possible?
a fluke underreporting case, actually, and their community service is to restore fluke habitat. So there's no one restoring fluke specifically, so the next best thing is restoring preferred, you know, spawning and foraging habitat for that. So we know we're getting this money, and the terms, it's very simple because it's not a complicated federal grant. It's just being administered through a foundation, but we don't have, you know, all these things that we're signing ourselves up for to report. Obviously, we're going to do the work and report on it and do due diligence to do what the money was intended for. But that being said, this money is for restoration. I can't use this money to do the suitability study. So the other sites that we're doing this in are ones that I had mentioned that we already have plantings established. So this is the only one that I really want to direct this funding towards it. But we just need to come up with this smaller pot of money to just get this study done so we know within good reason that the sites that we're able to select have the most chance of success for restoration.
How about winter flounder restoration?
I know, you've been talking about that for years, and I want to, but yeah, we're not doing finfish yet, but we'll see down the road.
Okay.
I
All right,
think the
what
eelgrass
about the US
habitat is
Well, that's,
really good flounder
it's
habitat.
kind of,
It is,
it's
I know.
the next
I think
best
we're-
thing,
by
I guess.
default, I think we're doing it.
Restoring the species
Yeah.
itself.
That helps lots of species, so it's.
What about the, you said you had funding from the Fish and Wildlife?
Yeah, that's the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, those community service payments, they're just
Okay,
being,
so
they're
they're
it's
going-
kind of, they
okay.
just, they're filtering the money, basically, so it's, you know, done with some sort of structure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good.
So I'd love to come back maybe in a month or so with an actual targeted plan of work to be discussed, and hopefully we could get started this summer on some of this.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
very
for your
much.
time. Thanks very much.
I think you have to go to the podium.
Go up to the podium. Yeah. Otherwise, they're not going to hear you.
No, I'd like to contact you, because I think there's some groups out here that may be able to help you on the fundraising for the initial study.
This is actually directed at Kim, so I'll address you.
Sure.
You said that there aren't currently any East Hampton restoration projects underway. Is that true? Seagrass, Eelgrass, well, I'm a candidate for trustee.
Sure.
I'm trying to find out a little bit of the history. There have been in the past.
Yes.
What about in Gardner's Bay itself?
We're not currently doing anything where we're kind of the primary entity regionally doing eelgrass restoration. SUNY Stony Brook's doing a little bit. It's more, research targeted, but as far as large-scale restoration, we kind of lead efforts in the region. And no, we're not currently doing any planting even in Gardner's. We do a bunch of, long-term monitoring at sites that traditionally had it, but there's nothing to say we can't do more of it. It's just, again, having that consistent funding and knowing the sites that we think, it'll be successful in working our efforts accordingly.
And most all of them are within harbors? I noticed you only spoke about harbors, but
Yeah, most of them, a lot of the harbors don't support it anymore because of, flushing sediment. Some of the smaller harbors, we tried doing stuff in Hog Creek, we've tried even portions of Northwest, and it's just not working. So some of these other applications of what I talked about, doing the different macroalgae work, that's candidate sites for that. But the eelgrass, it really, once it's lost in
Yes.
a creek or an embayment, it's really hard to get it back, and you really have to hit it hard and do a larger scale effort to see any success. So funding being what it is, we haven't really had a chance to do anything large scale. That's why we're trying this approach to, keep visiting these sites every year and keep building on targeted
is
areas.
water depth an issue when you choose these sites?
Only as it pertains to basically water clarity, so as long as light's able to get through. So we're seeing areas off of Plum Island, in the Sound, off of Fisher's Island, the more, even in Gardner's, areas where there's, higher energy and cooler, clearer water, that's what eelgrass prefers. So you're more likely to see happy eelgrass meadows in areas that have those conditions.
There is still a pretty healthy meadow east of Rocky Point in Montauk. You're aware of that, correct?
Yeah, and there's
It's
even
actually
Montauk has a lot of-
west of Rocky Point.
Is it west of?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still sites out there that are thriving, and it's, that's kind of one of the, for our suitability model, we like to do it in areas that, it's already supporting a meadow, and we kind of piggyback off of that and hope it all grows together. That's kind of our approach. So it's very unlikely that we're gonna go to an area that hasn't supported eelgrass in, 20 years and plant 5,000 plugs and expect it to survive. It's probably.
I asked the questions. The Deepwater Wind proposal is a concern to many of us here in town, and I had thought that years ago there had been a restoration effort in the area where they're proposing to run this, the jet plow cable, and that's why I was
I could
asking
come back
these
next
questions.
time with a more historic look at the sites that we've done. I know we actually have a good presentation that lists everything we've done historically. Off the top of my head, I don't know where, we've worked. Prior to 10 years ago, I could say, within more recent years that I've been involved, we haven't been doing much out and out.
And Cornell, I don't suppose, has taken a position on,
We are not an advocacy organization. We work on applied research. We, gather information as it relates to certain projects. So there's, we want to hope people base things on informed science, and that's what we're there to do. So, yeah, as far as monitoring and seeing if something's there or was historically there, we can comment on things like that, but we can't say
you wouldn't.
whether or not it's a good idea to do what's proposed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I would just point out, Gary, before you leave the podium, the restoration efforts that have been taking place in East Hampton over the years, basically each and every restoration effort is a learning experience, because what exactly has caused this demise to this grass and what exactly is going to be the key to its restoration is not yet known. So everything we do different areas, different water temperatures, different water bodies, different densities, different means of implanting the eelgrass itself. Everything has been a learning curve to try and figure out exactly what can we do. Now we're doing the springs to see what impact that's having on the eelgrass bed. So every effort has, you know, we're learning something from it, even if they're not totally successful. Even Northwest Restoration was crabs.
Yeah.
Crabs went through, bit off all the,
And
You know,
that's, I mean, that's
so-
normal activity that we see, but
Yeah.
again, if it's only a small meadow,
right,
it's not gonna survive that. If it was a big,
Right.
meadow, we see natural damage happening, so
right,
again, all the more reason in areas we think it's gonna, we have to just keep on building those
right,
meadows.
right.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Okay. Thanks again, Ken.
Thank you for having
I missed you, Tyler.
Okay.
Okay.
Next, Susan Vorpal. Did you want to have any? No? Okay. Sarah Davison?
Hello, trustees. Thank you for letting me speak. Sarah Davison from Friends of Georgica Pond. I just wanted to give an update and discuss a couple of items about the state of the pond. So as we all know, on January 20th of this year, the pond was let, and unfortunately, the traditional spring opening was not able to happen due to weather and pond conditions. And then we found that the first set of piping plover eggs was laid on the beach 2 weeks earlier than the date, so the window disappeared. Today, the pond conditions are very troubling to the Friends of Georgica Pond and the neighbors at the pond, and I wanted to share, some of the conditions out there. According to the USGS survey pond gauge meter, the pond is a foot higher than it was a year ago at this time. So a foot higher in water, and that has a very large horizontal spread effect.
What was your reading, Sarah?
6.2 feet.
Thank you.
The pond is warming up. As you may know, the telemetry buoy of the Gobler lab was put back in the pond last week. Salinity is extremely low, a measure of 4, and chlorophyll is very high. So these are conditions that will lead to a harmful algal bloom, and this is really the concern. And in addition, Dr. Gobler's lab are measuring bacteria in the pond this week. The earlier readings of the Surfrider Foundation were in May 9th, and at that time, pond bacterial levels were low, but we're very worried about what they are today with the high water levels and the proximity of septic systems to the pond. So given those conditions, we had some research done and did find that in Southampton Town, at both Mecox Bay and Sagaponack Pond, the Southampton Town trustees have been granted emergency opening permits by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in consultation with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And they have been in consultation with the Fish and Wildlife Service because, of course, at both of those ponds, just like Georgica, there are nesting federally threatened piping plovers. Thanks, to a lot of help from Rick Drew, and Rick and I went down there and met with Juliana Duryea of the Town Natural Resources to look at the plover situation there, and of course their nesting takes priority. But our curiosity was piqued that the Army Corps and the Fish and Wildlife Service felt that it was possible to have an emergency opening at those two other ponds in the presence of plovers. So basically, I'm here in front of you today to ask whether an emergency opening at Georgica could be possible and could be compatible with the nesting plover situation that we have. I recognize that's a difficult question, and a question under normal circumstances where we would pretty much rule it out. But I would like to urge this board to consider inviting the Fish and Wildlife Service or the Army Corps and the DEC, and I'll come back to the DEC in a minute, to discuss this possibility to help, protect and promote the work we've been doing together to try to keep the water quality higher at the pond. Obviously, I understand that, the DEC is a key player here, and they haven't weighed in, or I guess I'm not quite sure, but they're in consultation with the agencies at the other ponds in Southampton, and I don't know what their position is on that, but obviously we're in the throes of deep negotiations with
Sarah,
them.
do you happen to know if they have let those other ponds at this point?
My understanding is they haven't.
Okay,
Yeah,
because that was
that's
my understanding.
Yeah,
as
my
well.
understanding was
Okay.
they're talking, they haven't got
Right.
all their permissions, nothing's lined up.
Well, they have the Army Corps and the Fish and Wildlife, and it's been drawn on a map, and that surprisingly was granted very quickly.
Were there any conditions to it, or
Yeah, I have the paperwork. I could leave that with you.
leave it with us? Because-
It was the usual kinds of conditions, that plover monitors would be present, that they'd be on the site for only 2 days, which of course at Georgica, we can get it done much quicker than that.
Probably open it by hand.
Well, and that's sort of what I was just hoping we could just explore.
Sarah, the only issue I see with this is if conditions, like right now, the draft permit that we have that we're contesting with the DEC,
Negotiating.
which, well,
With-
negotiating, that's a better term, thank you. Basically, the issue is controlling the let once you start it. And it's literally impossible to, stop this thing once it starts until that pond is dropped to a certain level. And my concern here is this, that you can have a monitor, you can have everybody there, but when this thing sort of runs and travels either to the east or the west, and basically goes out of that 110-foot envelope, we may have issues related to that, and it may create, my biggest concern is it creating or having a negative impact on our dredging permits, which are a bigger picture item, which are longer term.
Yeah, we're
And-
in the midst
And
of,
I do support, we do support,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
understand
that's-
the importance of
That's
the.
our, that's what's fueling our trepidation here.
our major concern is the overall health of the pond over a long period of time, And, it's kind of critical. I mean, Mecox was opened, I think, on the 29th of March. It closed and then it filled up again, so the opening really isn't a relevant, crazy relevant thing, But we really have to look for the long, the pond is never gonna drain properly unless that shoal
Right.
is mitigated. And so it all has to work together,
My feeling here, and to address what Jim said, I think there's more of a danger in leaving the pond full, because if it is so full and it breaks on its own in a storm, it's going to pose more risk to the plovers. It's more likely going to cause an opening we can't
Perhaps.
control. If it's manually opened, it's easier to control where the opening is. And we had an email string about this, where Sarah was involved, and I think, I
Well,
was
I think
advocating for
what
applying
has
for an
happened,
emergency
what the
permit to open the pond.
Yeah.
And I think it would help our case with the dredging permit in the long run if we can show that we really need to have this pond open as much as possible, because of these kind of situations arise. And if we have the ability to control it manually, we're reducing the risk to endangered species and to, adjacent properties.
Well, the only thing we have control over is where we start that let, okay? And historically, when this thing has let the last several years, when it lets on its own, the tendency is it lets to the west.
to the west. If
And when
it's-
it lets to the west, it tends to continue to migrate to the west, which has been an issue with the Georgia Association. So certainly, it would be beneficial to open this now. My understanding
Most
is.
of the birds are to the east.
Yes. My understanding is you have engaged an attorney that's exploring this at this time?
He was researching
Okay.
the status of
What I-
the Mecox.
What I would ask is maybe that you do that exploration, you share that information with us, and that we may be able to act on this more quickly. But, I got wind of this over the weekend. We all saw Priscilla's emails and stuff. I did call Southampton Town's trustees today. I didn't talk to any of the trustees. I have a call into their chairman right now, and hopefully I'll hear from him. And we could perhaps be able to do something with this. It would be nice if we
But
could.
that's the best we can hope for.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got phone calls into everybody, we're ready to move, but.
You know, thing
Has
that
to
we
be
have
done
is
with
there's a
the-
lot of balls in the air
Gotta
right
keep the
Yeah.
big picture in mind, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I must admit, I haven't seen any emails or heard anything of this dialogue until now. I would not support this board seeking any permits from the Army Corps or
We're
the
not,
DEC.
we're not, we're not
Okay,
saying that.
All right, just, I know you're pursuing it. I mean,
No,
looking
we're
at
not.
what's happened in Southampton, yes. But what I would prefer is that I know other entities have received some type of a permit or agreement through U.S. Fish and Wildlife for the occasional taking of an endangered species, for some project that seems to have a greater benefit than that one particular taking or loss.
Okay, Diane.
an endangered
just to-
species,
Just to
so-
make you aware of this permit was issued on the pretext of, there was, I believe it was cyanobacteria toxins in the water. That was the leverage that they used to try and
Yeah,
procure
public health-
this,
public health has
procure
huge
this
leverage,
permit. So, you know, we may find ourselves in exactly the same situation. What I really am reluctant to do is create an atmosphere right now that is so antagonistic with the agencies by acting unilaterally on something that we're unable to move forward with anything.
Right.
So,
But it's okay if we feel like they're being antagonistic because they won't let us move
Okay,
without their
okay, but-
ridiculous conditions and whatnot.
but the piping plover issue is something that this board, under your guidance, has agreed to adhere to. And I don't think that we should abandon that.
Yeah. And, you know, the actual situation down there is,
Take a liberty.
there's multiple birds, there's multiple nests, and we're gonna work toward doing whatever we can. But it has to be done, you know, I mean, if we're gonna try and work for the overall health of the pond, we all have to work together. It's not just us, it's not just one pond. These algae blooms, all this stuff is going on all over the
I know that,
island,
Bill.
all over the world. I mean,
All that.
we have to work together in a cohesive manner to get this done.
I know, it's just my working together means working together to ensure what my understanding of what the trustees' role should be will remain in place. And I do that very, very strongly and fiercely. And, you know,
What is
I'm
that,
just
Diane?
not-
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying.
I said, when I want to ensure that we're working together with other entities to ensure the health of that pond, I do so much more stringently or fiercely to ensure the trustees' uniqueness is not in any way infringed upon.
And what does
And-
uniqueness mean?
It means not recognizing that the DEC can tell us when to open that pond.
So,
If we feel we need to open it for its health and safety, open it. Open it and take the consequences.
Stewards of the waters.
See if they're gonna come forward. I've sat with them and opened up the record book and flipped the page and said, there's the documents that say we've been opening this since before you guys were around.
Okay, but
And then we all backed off and we had another.
We didn't have any problems at all.
You know?
Okay, but
Back in those
Diane,
days.
you have agreed with the piping plover initiative, and this is a completely different deal. If you go down there and you decide that the hell with it, I'm gonna get down there and open that pond, okay? The consequences to that, I don't think the Donegan patent document
I really
is
just
gonna
don't wanna
defend
say
you.
the hell with it, let's go open it. What I want to say is that instead of this board moving forward with acknowledging and that you need a permit from these entities to open the pond, go at it from another way. Can Natural Resources get a permit to save those birds somehow? I mean, we've tried for so long to say, you know, here's these birds, and we've got all these protection measures in place, and they're not really, what was that?
I don't think when we launch them into the surf, we're gonna be saving them.
No,
Maybe some of
no.
'em can
But,
swim,
I mean,
maybe some of
we've
'em
got
can't.
these regulations in place, these policies in place to try and protect the birds. Are they working, they're working in East Hampton?
Well, there's,
But
seems to
there's
be a
so much
record,
more that needs to
Diane,
be
there
met.
seems to be a record number of them down there now. It'd be nice if we could,
Six
it would
Right,
be nice
but,
if we could
yeah.
get our cake and eat it too.
Yes. At what point did it take somebody to decide, well, you know what, we actually should probably collect an osprey egg or an eaglet egg and hatch that baby bird out and see if we can raise it and restore it back into the wild? At what point does an endangered species require more input from
Hang on,
humans?
Hang on.
And these birds might need that at this
I have
point.
experience with birds, okay? And this is the difficult thing that you have with any, like, farm-raised bird, okay? They tried it with turkeys, they've tried it with multiple animals. As soon as that bird hatches, it imprints on the first thing it sees. If it's a turtle, it's gonna follow that turtle around. If it's a person, it's basically, that animal typically is not going to be ever
Right. But
be
having,
able to be used. It could be used for breeding
It's kind of a tangent, I
purposes.
think we all understand
But
that.
I think we're-
Birds have to
we're
be
kinda
raised in their native habitat. to be
going off.
successful.
any species,
Yeah.
yes. You want it to be raised in its natural environment.
No, but it really, it's to an extreme. Birds just don't go back
I
to
think the
being
point here is if this
natural.
means
Are
the difference
eagles
between.
still on the endangered
If
species
this is the
list?
difference between a blue green bloom and not having.
Eagles
blue
have
algae
nothing
bloom,
to do with
it's
what we're talking.
clear
Can we
we
get
have
back
I
on?
know, get back on
I
track.
agree.
We get back on
Say there's
subject.
another
If
way
we
to
can
go
prevent a
take
toxic
care of the
algae
birds.
bloom, we should do everything in our power to do that.
So
Well, I think we have
That's
a
what we're
nice
doing right now.
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah, so
You're
I don't know
looking
why.
into it.
So, to sum up then, I will leave you with the Army Corps documents that I have. We're just asking to look at a unique situation here, whether there's any room to explore without jeopardizing the birds or the long-term success of the permit with the DEC. And, maybe thinking a little out of the box,
Yeah,
hand digging, whatever. I know, and, I don't say that lightly.
no, it's,
But, it is a bad situation down there,
Yeah.
and we would really be grateful if we could just take a
I
further
think
look.
we're open to, to.
Great, I
pretty
appreciate
much
it so
anything,
much.
Okay?
Okay.
And we're gonna work on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, sir.
Is it at all possible to begin a cut on the ocean side?
No,
And then when you do the
no.
top part, it'll go into the cut on
No,
the ocean side that you
no,
already started?
no.
No?
It's,
Okay.
It's an art form.
I
can
suggest you go
start-
down and watch it
yeah,
sometime.
we'll,
Yeah, that'll go right to
Not
the
the way you
raiders.
think.
I know it goes instantly once you cut it from
Yeah.
the top.
once the first trickle goes, you better get out of the
I'm
way.
well aware of that. I'm just saying if you,
Right.
Yeah, don't park
Talk to
your
you
car
outside.
there while you're
Don't
doing
put
it.
something you like real close to it.
like, cutting blows.
It goes from a trickle, I mean,
You
Keep
have
I've
that?
seen
going.
oyster
I have
pond.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've got,
yeah, we'll reach out to, see if there's anything we can do.
Okay.
You're following up with the Southampton case, right?
yes,
So
and I'll
If they-
report back to you guys.
if they are authorized to open their pond, I'm assuming we would.
Well, I want to find out what process they went through, what conditions got put upon them, and most importantly, how that reflected in their other dealings with some of the other government agencies.
Yeah, no, this is a, like I said, a lot of balls in the air, we gotta make sure we're juggling them right.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
To say the least. Next up is Mark Miller.
I think Rover's on the menu and then we won't have a problem at all.
Ooh.
Sorry. Hi, Mark Miller, Hampton Clam Bake. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation, but I do have an invitation to a party to start off with. You may remember last year at Bay Kitchen Bar, we did the opening, we call it Oyster University now, Barley's East Hampton Seed Project with the oysters. So it's next Sunday from 3 to 5, Memorial Day weekend, and I hope you all can join us. I'll send an email out to Lori so that she can collect the names for me again and put y'all on the VIP
I recall it was a really good party.
It was a really good party. And we decided to do it on Memorial Day weekend this year, hopefully so that Barley can raise a little bit more money. I think we did it like in June, which is really not a great weekend last year. So this year we're doing it on the holiday, hoping more people will be here and he can raise more money. Now, now that I've invited you to a party, what I really need help with is hopefully, I was talking to Francis last week, or a couple weeks ago. I would love to ask if there's a way that we can streamline the permitting process for use of the beach in the evenings. Right now, to do our clam bakes, I fill out 9 pages of applications between the town and the trustees. And I know that the approval process all goes at one meeting that's attended by, I believe, Kathy Burke-Gonzalez, if I'm not mistaken, the deputy town clerk, somebody from the board, which I believe is you, Francis, and I believe Nancy Lynn is also there, Nancy Lynn Thiel.
He's the attorney.
Is the attorney for the town, is also there.
The part of the problem is there are about 6 of you, all vying for the same space on those beaches. So.
But all going through the same board.
Right, right. So it's a matter of not overcrowding each of those beaches.
Oh, I'm not suggesting nor asking
I-
for less, I just, maybe a
Right.
streamlining of the process to ask for permits, so we don't have to fill out 9 pages and go to 2 different locations.
Do you have a suggestion?
I would since you're all sitting at the same board meeting, approving or disapproving our permit applications, just all sign off on one permit application. Both organizations, you're all sitting in the same meeting. So if the trustees have an objection to one of them, or the town does, I'm gonna get denied at the same place.
There's a-
Or, I mean, hopefully approved, I mean,
You know, the trustee representative of that board brings the information on controversial things back to the trustees who make the decision of the body. You know, the one individual trustee sitting at that meeting is sitting there as a representative of the board of
Certainly.
trustees,
But-
not as the trustee.
I certainly
But
understand.
what happens, Bill, is if I have a concern about an issue with a party and I say no, then it doesn't get issued.
Yeah.
So I agree with Mark that there really isn't
if
a
we could-
need for 2 separate permits. If I representing the board is already approving or disapproving the permit, why do they need a separate one from us?
As in, I don't believe, and I could be wrong, but I
What's
don't
the
believe the
purpose?
entire
Well,
town board
I
votes
kind
on
of-
them.
I kind of agree to a point, but maybe what could be done here is a singular permit, okay, application, that's a check the box, okay? If by some chance the permit application occurs on a trustee-owned beach, well, you gotta check that box, as well as the town. And it would go through, you'd only fill out one application, okay? And depending on where the venue is, well, then you weigh in accordingly. Does that make sense?
Well, the thing is, I also weigh in on all the other parties around town, on private party and every, private property and all that. So it's all been brought into one
Okay.
place. So I'm not sitting there just waiting for trustee Beaches to come up. It's a committee,
Okay. I
and
didn't
everybody
realize
has
that
a
was-
say.
Structure.
Process now is much simpler than it was 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
And if it continues to require continued simplification, understanding, Francis and the other entity, you know, the other department representatives there understand that, and I'm sure they wouldn't have a problem working on that. But I think you're also gonna need a code change, because the regulations are spelled out in the code, so.
Well, I
that's
don't,
gonna
I mean,
require-
the code was just changed last Tuesday. I'm not sure this involves code change as much as your, you as a board.
Mass
I'm
gathering
asking
code
for-
was changed last Tuesday?
Yes, code 151 of the town code was changed.
Parts of it that have
Or
to
2
do with
weeks ago.
filming mainly,
With what?
most of
Filming.
filming and.
Yeah, I mean, without getting into the whole thing, because I didn't even understand half of it, my part of it is lumped in with this whole huge other town
Commercial
code.
gatherings,
Right.
yes,
So
yes.
My part is
Yep.
small. I mean, clearly, if somebody wants to film on Newtown Lane, that's not a trustee concern. In the use of the beaches, obviously it is, and I fill out applications, and I now have to get 2 notarized signatures, and I have to go to the town hall, go up to Atlantic Avenue. And everybody is sitting in the same room agreeing to or not agreeing to the parties. So my hope is that we can come up with a simpler way that, you know, maybe I just do one application.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen this year because we're already there. But we can certainly work on that for the next season. What will probably occur, though, is if a trustee representative isn't at that particular meeting for whatever reason, it may get tabled till the next meeting, which is, they meet once a week.
They mean, well, yeah, because I am,
So you would want to get your applications in, several weeks ahead of time to make sure.
well, that's it, part of the issue, and one of the, I went to the town board and suggested the change in the code to try to get some money for the beaches. I mean, Diane, you and I met about this years and years ago. So finally, there may be some fees next year. I mean, part of the issue is, I know the board meets on Thursday. I could get a call, in fact, I did just get a call today for a party this coming Saturday. It doesn't happen to affect the beach, but, I'm trying to.
Right, I understand.
Y'all know that I want to do the right thing, and I'm the guy.
And there are probably ways for the committee to reach out to the trustees if
Right.
that happens.
Right. Okay.
Who's that?
And what would happen if the trustee board agrees to it?
The
and
trustee
town
board never agrees to this.
No, I mean, if his permit, though, if he brings a permit for a trustee beach and we agree to it, and the town board has a problem with it, then what would happen?
I don't understand.
I guess it would get denied, right? If either
Oh,
one or
no.
two parties didn't.
For,
if it
like,
didn't
an ask.
happen, then it doesn't
No,
happen.
he would be in if he just had a trustee permit and had 93 people on a piece of property, probably get a
Well,
violation.
yeah, I mean, that raises the whole, I mean,
Yeah.
there was debate last year whether, with you, I needed permission for any party, with the town, whether I needed a permit for 50 or more or under 50, and, I mean,
Ask gathering party.
right, but now it's sort of changed where I need a permit from the town for everything, regardless of how many people. And that's more about the paddleboarders and the yoga people who stretch out and, use up the whole beach in the morning. When I come on at 6 o'clock at night, I'm not really interfering with too many people. But anyway, so I am now applying for a permit for every single party. So it's 9 pages of permit applications for every party I do. This weekend, I'm doing 6 parties. Only 2 of them are on the beach. So I'm just trying to figure out a way to make the process. And, 9 pages is a lot of pages. I mean, I do 100 clam bakes a year. It's a lot of paper floating around.
Right.
This is something.
Well, Mark, I think we should continue to talk about it, and like Francis said, it just may be a little.
Can I just hand the applications to you from now on? It's right next door?
Sure.
No,
But I think
continue
something
giving
to
this
work
to you.
towards. I think it's something that we need to continue to discuss. And
It is,
just-
and it is something I would appreciate. It would just make it a lot easier instead of, I mean, it's an onerous process right now.
Yeah.
And
I
by the
agree.
way,
I
I
agree.
said the same thing to the town board at their last meeting. I came and said exactly the same thing.
And I'll start a discussion with the rest of the committee on Thursday.
Awesome, thank you. I know Kathy and Steve are all, everybody's on board. It's
Yeah, I
just,
suspect
we've been working
probably
for
would be.
years on,
Yeah.
like I said, long before you guys were, Diane and I talked about this, 6, 7 years ago. So I do understand that it takes time. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
I hope to see you all at Bay Kitchen Bar on Sunday.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
And I'll bring a PowerPoint next time.
All right, Gary, did you have something you wanted to talk about?
Just wanted to speak to Ken.
Okay.
Actually, I did. I was thinking, in regards to Georgia, has a transfer pump system of any kind ever been explored, other than just a letting, to control water levels and exchange fresh and salt water?
An actual pump that pumps it.
Actually,
Power or
it's
like a
been
pipe, like a
it's
pump?
been suggested as a means, but it would only really be functional if the pond's open. Otherwise, you just add water.
I mean, I understand as far as the marine life that's in there, the exchange for crabs and perch and whatever's got to come and go, that you need an actual letting. But I kind of envision, I mean, they have the outflow pipe for hook.
There is no outflow pipe from Georgia.
No, I know, but they have one for hook, which should at least control the level.
But
and
no salt
letting.
water comes back in through that.
No
It
seawater
takes
does
away
come
from
back
being
in.
a natural
but
pond.
But a pump system,
It's been talked about as, actually as a method to stave off an algae bloom by pumping salt water up into the far reaches of the pond. You may be able to adjust the salinity of the water,
And you get aeration, too.
thereby mitigating the
And-
algal bloom. Okay, but
Keep the plovers happy is what my thought is. And
well,
it's not plover season.
it could. The only thing at this point is, I think the issue would be, by adding water to that pond, you would actually be creating the conditions for a natural breach, which, like was said earlier, when that pond has breached naturally in the last several years, it tends to breach to the west, and when it breaches to the west, it tends to gnaw
Yes.
the dunes off at Georgia Association. And, you know, it's one of those things, it's a very tough balance here, because you can do something that solves or addresses one problem, but the backside of that
Of course.
can really create another
I
issue.
just kind of envisioned an outflow pipe that would handle the plovers are on the beach.
Right now,
And you let-
Hey, Gary, I'm gonna just say, right now, it would not be either in the trustees, the public's interest, or that pond's interest to install a pipe in that pond, because as soon as you install a leveling pipe or that in that pond, you know what's gonna happen to the shoaling is gonna still continue, okay? That pond's still gonna get overwashed, it's still gonna shoal in, but you know what's gonna really happen is, when you're trying to get those permits or renew those permits for your dredging, there's gonna be absolutely no incentive on the part of some of the
Well, except to
agencies
restore the marine environment.
to issue those permits, okay? Right now, there's a system that's been in there for a couple hundred years, there's a little glitch in it. It worked well, and I think the sooner that we can get back to that, the better off we'll be.
Well,
And
that's
the
it.
installation
That'll be
is-
when the plovers relocate.
No, but the installation of some mechanical device in there, I don't think is something that would
But
serve
it has-
anybody's
I guess the
interest.
question was, though, has it been explored by this board? It has.
Yeah.
A transfer pump system has been.
They've done everything known to man in the pond in the past.
I've had people talk to me about that too, and say, is this possible, something like that, and I think what
Of
you're saying
course it's
is possible, definitely, but I do
Yeah,
think that the
and it
flushing.
could very
hold
well,
on,
and
the
it could
flushing from
very be-
Opening the inlet is better flushing than the flushing you get
No,
from
no,
that, you
but
know,
it
it's
could-
more cyclical and holistic for the pond.
Actually, it
Okay.
could, if we had a more normal year, where the pond is much lower, but the air temperatures are coming up, the water temperatures are coming up,
Sea level
and
rise,
the
yeah.
algal bloom is like imminent, you know, you're at that, sort of threshold, certainly, pumping, of salt water would do two things. One, you're gonna cool the pond down. Two, you're gonna aerate it. But most importantly, you're gonna adjust the salinity where it's gonna be antagonistic
So
for
at this point
blue-green
in time, if
algae
you
and
put another
Cladophora.
6 inches of water in that pond, it's gonna
Yeah, you
breach
would
wherever it
have to-
wants
yeah.
to, so.
Yeah,
Well, no, I'm saying let the existing water out before you introduce new salt.
I mean,
Right, you can pump water out
theoretically,
as well as in.
that
is what you're
would involve more equipment on the beach than breaching it. So at this point in time, you would, you know,
Comes down to Occam's
Yeah.
razor, I think.
Just looking for a solution.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, we'll move on to new business. Accabonac Harbor, Hog Creek, request from the building inspector to issue a CO to K. Donati at 93 Gerard Drive.
Can I jump in there, Francis?
Sure.
This is the same issue that we have down in the Accabonac committee reports for Sullivan at 93 Gerard Drive. It was a bulkhead replacement and staircase reconstruction. Is she here today? Yes. Ms. Bistrine was here to discuss it with us 2 weeks
okay.
ago. The permit, the original permit was to one individual, the secondary permit was like 4, they were all the children. So these are, we're not quite sure why the building department is looking for a CO for each individual that was named on the permit. But since we met last time, we have received the photographs and an updated survey, and everything seems to be in order. So for either one of these, I would have no objection to us advising the building inspector that all conditions of our permit have been met, and he can issue the COs to any of the 4 noted on our permit,
Okay.
any and all. noted on our permit.
Do you want to make that a motion?
I'll make that a motion.
Anyone want to second
I'll
that?
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Care of both
Okay,
of those.
Great,
So, I don't know, Ms. Bistrian wanted to add anything to that? No, okay,
okay.
so that's done.
An application of Lionhead Beach Association for bulkhead replacement.
Yep, that's new, so we'll just take
Yeah,
a
we
look
just
at
got to
that
have it here, so we'll look at it.
So we'll pass that on to
committee.
committee. Georgica, a request from Building Department to issue a CO to Siegel residents at 39 Association Road.
38?
39.
It says 38 here.
This one says 39.
Mr. Siegel.
Okay,
Association
well, it's
Road.
Siegel residents.
Hey, Britton, hang on, before you leave, are you involved in Siegel?
Only at 3 associations, not that property.
Okay, this is a, then why is there why is there a lettering in the file of yours? Dated January 3rd, 2015?
3 associations?
This is 38?
38.
38.
Siegel Lippman?
No, working at
You never worked on it. Well, maybe this is filed wrong.
No, it should say who did the email get sent to.
Well-
Same owner owns another property on the same road that I worked
It says 3.
It had to have been sent to me.
Maybe it got misfiled.
Yeah, it says 3, but it might have gotten misfiled with a 30-something, you know?
I could see that, 3, 3, 8.
Okay, anyway,
There's definitely
I was
three there.
I was hoping you could get up and shed light on this.
Bail us out.
Okay.
Go should let outside.
I think Lori and I spoke about this the other day. I'm sort of at a little bit of a loss, because this is old, this permit, isn't it?
Yes, they're asking for.
2014.
Yeah,
With the building, yeah, it's.
yeah, this is pretty old. We haven't seen the property
No.
or heard from this
First time
person
hearing.
literally in years, and Lori did reach out to them to get in touch with us to go visit the property and kind of catch up.
Was this work done, Jim, and closed out?
We don't know. We don't know. I don't, the permit was issued, the permit was never closed out, okay? Now it appears what it is this, when this permit was originally issued, it was issued as part of a building permit for expansion of some decks. I think there was a swimming pool originally applied for. There was a whole laundry list of things attached to this permit. What it appears is that the owner is finally getting to the point where they're trying to close out permits. And, but on our end,
But wouldn't that be a difficult thing to determine on a
at
Phragmite
this,
removal?
at this point, yes.
At this point, I know.
Yes. So we're gonna have to, that's why we sent them a note to please contact us. We'll go.
Yeah, maybe they have pictures
We'll
of the
go
job
look at, we'll
completed.
go look at the property.
Before and after, okay.
Application of S&H Lippern? Lipman for Phragmite removal at 112 Georgia Close Road.
Okay, I reached out to their agent. I have not heard back from him.
Okay.
This was Lang Associates? Is the,
Yes.
yeah. I called them last week. I haven't heard back from them.
Okay. And also, H. Maclo, Phragmites Control.
Again, that's a Bruce Horwath one. Bruce is in Italy until,
Lucky him.
I think, Tuesday or Wednesday this week. And we're gonna meet a week from today on that one.
Put it to the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Napeag, a request from D. Lomovsky to add his wife to the lease at Lot 17N at Lazy Point.
Yeah, apparently he was in ill health recently, and he has passed away very recently. But it looks like, his correspondence was from some time ago to submit the request.
Yeah, it was notarized April 28th.
Okay, I don't see a problem with this.
Yeah, that
No.
seems
Seemed
Any
to
problem
me,
with that?
The paperwork's in order.
and benign, yeah, so.
I mean, as far as
Yes,
I haven't seen that paperwork.
this is what, pass that over to him.
Okay. Yeah, let's,
that would be, what, proof of residency and et cetera,
And-
et cetera. So we
Well,
do
there's
have
an
our
app-
standard, requirements, so
Yeah.
if they're
Well-
met on that
But
application.
it's a transfer to his wife.
Yeah,
Right,
Yeah.
right.
yeah,
right,
that seems good.
Yeah, I think they still need to meet the requirements.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah, it's normal.
it's easy.
Yeah, do you want to just take another, do we need a little more time?
Yeah, let the attorney look at it and find out if we need more info from them.
I mean, all
I have an
indications.
affidavit of domicile. Do you have anything else to indicate her current
hold
place of residence?
on, hold on, there was two letters
Just
here.
some
What
letters.
was that, Rick?
Do we have anything else to indicate current, I mean,
But she lived-
they're married for 41 years.
Right,
Presumably they're in the same place. I mean, looks like exactly what I have.
Okay.
I mean, it's fine, it's face, I don't have a driver's license or anything like that to
What if she
show
doesn't
her.
have a driver?
You have him as the lessee, and she's his wife, so,
So they're both,
I
Is
can't
it this
recall
time
exactly
going
what
by
the rules and regs,
council?
so make sure
Council's good with it.
make
All we need is a
sure
proof of residency, right? Whether it's a driver's license or a voter ID card or
would
something like
seem
that that
rather
says she
cruel
lives
at
at that
this
address.
point.
this is pretty simple, we do have our requirements, let's just make sure that she meets those requirements. And then, that being the case, then we could vote in favor of this at our next meeting. Doesn't sound like it's that pressing, right? They can wait another 2 weeks.
yeah, well, so I need some more, I need some other evidence besides the affidavit.
Right, and Lori will tell you
Yeah.
exactly
So-
what's
off
needed.
that.
we'll just reach
We'll
out to
just
her.
table it if everybody's all right till the next meeting. We'll
Fine.
gather that information.
Okay.
All right, good.
Okay, next we have ZBA notices from the village. This is for a meeting to be held May 26th at 11 a.m. at 1 Cedar Street. The first one, Suffolk County Tax Map 3015-3-11.3 to appeal the building inspector's determinations for variances from Chapter 278 zoning to redevelop the property with the new residence and accessory structures. Applicant appeals to the building inspector's determination that the proposed pool house contains multiple rooms, requires accessory building, shall contain no more than one room.
We the adjourning property line, do you know, a property owner on that?
It's on Further Lane. I'm trying to, I don't see anything that refers to,
I can go in and look at it.
Beach
Friday,
frontage.
so
The issue is they've
timely.
already done whatever work, and there's a pool house that the building department is saying has multiple rooms, and the
That's what it sounds like.
party involved in saying that it's not.
it's proposed, it's not there yet.
Oh, okay.
But I guess,
They removed something and now they're proposing this. They want to redevelop it.
so the ZBA turned them down and they're appealing it?
Yeah, the building inspector turned them down.
Okay.
But I see nothing about beach frontage. All right, the second one is an application of West End Partners LLC, tax map 301-15-5-8 for variance from Chapter 101 coastal erosion hazard areas and Chapter 278 zoning to construct swimming pool equipment and install a swimming pool drywell. Variances of 20 feet and 25 feet are required from Section 278-3A5C to construct swimming pool equipment 20 feet and 25 feet from the side lot lines, where the required setbacks are 40 feet. A coastal erosion hazard area permit and variance is required in accordance with Section 101-9 to construct the swimming pool equipment and install drywell for swimming pool discharge seaward of the coastal erosion hazard area line. The subject property is 100,386 square feet in area and is located at 57 West End Road. The property adjoins the Ocean Beach, 57 West End.
Okay.
Generally speaking, these are pretty good-sized lots. I don't see why they need to go seaward of that coastal erosion hazard sign.
That's a big lot.
Gotta be another location for it.
I mean, the other part about the side, being too close to the side lot, that doesn't seem
Right.
too
You gonna go
concerning
look?
for us, but if it's in the CEHA, it's not
Yeah.
good if they can avoid the, yeah.
You know, it's good that we get this information, but in fairness to the village,
Couldn't find any rubber
if
bands.
you've ever watched them, they really watch these things closely. I mean, kudos to those folks, and, yeah. Very little gets past the village.
It's true, I've seen those
Oh,
meetings
my
too. yeah.
God, yeah. Yeah, that's a good thing, as it relates to the water.
Yeah, just wide revetment.
On the other hand, this one is,
There's always one.
this one's from the town for a hearing set for tomorrow evening. Applicant Michael Howe, 26 Bay Inlet Road in Lionhead Beach. They want to demolish an existing one-story residence and construct a new 3,408 square foot, two-story residence, swimming pool with decking and patio, sanitary system, and driveway on a parcel of land containing wetlands and surface waters. The following variances are required. 1 and 2 variances of 24 feet and 35 feet are required to allow the residence and decking to be constructed 76 feet and 65 feet from wetlands where a 100-foot setback is required. And 3, a 4-foot variance is required to install sanitary system 146 feet from wetlands where a 150-foot setback is required. So this is for hearing tomorrow night.
They're adjacent to which body of water? Bay Inlet, is that 3 Mile, Peak?
I don't know if it's the harbor or if it's
Oops,
What's the address again?
no,
Bay Inlet.
Lionhead Beach, is it Hog?
Yes, Lionhead.
It
Lionhead?
would either be Hog Creek or the beachfront, so I'm not sure.
I think it's Hell Creek.
It could be Gardner.
So it's 4 feet away from the setback they should have for the septic.
Yeah, that's not a big deal.
It's not a huge thing, I guess, but the deck within, they need a 25-foot variance for decking.
Who's gonna go take a quick look tomorrow?
I normally would, but I'll be out of town.
Okay.
Can't.
Anyone available?
Yeah, give it.
Tyler?
Can't go.
When did we get that notification?
What's the date on that, Jim?
What's that?
What's the
What's the date
date
on that,
on the
Jim?
notification? Next page.
Just curious, I mean, I'd like to have a little more time than one day.
Yeah, well, they get these
It
things.
could have come 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that'd be fine, yeah. No?
It's not stamped?
Is it on the front there, May?
We don't have a, well, we got a May 11th.
Yeah,
Okay.
after the last meeting, May 11th.
That's fair.
All right, whatever, we'll go.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, a letter from Gil Anderson from the Suffolk County Department of Public Works in reference to the fall 2017, winter 2018 dredging schedule. This went to the supervisor. Dear Supervisor Cantwell, Suffolk County Department of Public Works is currently planning for the fall 2017, winter 2018 dredging season. Suffolk County Department of Public Works is requesting the town priority list of waterways to be considered for this dredging season. The Department of Public Works is requesting only those project locations which hold authorization permits for dredging. Due to budget constraints and restricted dredge windows, priority position is very important to the Department of Public Works so that we can effectively complete as many projects as possible. Please provide an up-to-date condition assessment of the priority waterways, including a map with soundings which identifies shoaling. the department requests that the town submit their priority dredge list and supporting documentation to our Waterways Division no later than June 19th in order to be considered for the dredging season. So my understanding, there are 3 permits in place: Northwest Harbor, 3 Mile Harbor, and Accabonac.
Correct. They were discussed with members of the county team, with Kim Shaw, when we met with them on site at a few of the water bodies a few weeks back. And Kim was delineating some of the particulars of shoaling and other concerns at that time, so that process should be underway. And I think I echo the sentiments of pretty much everyone on the board that these 3 are priority projects, and we would like to get more done if possible, but
Yeah.
at the moment, these are the 3 that,
Do we have any indication how many they would be willing to do at this time?
they just indicated it's a long and difficult process, and
How they line up.
these have been going since 2015, I believe, Brian, to get these this
But
far
how would
along.
you place them? Accabonac 1, 3 Mile 2, Northwest 3?
I'm with Accabonac being number 1.
What's going on in
You
Accabonac?
don't think it should be?
I think it's Accabonac.
Oh, yeah, that's what I said.
Accabonac is
number 1.
Accabonac
Yeah.
is definitely number 1.
3 Mile
I
number 2,
think so,
and then
too.
Northwest. Yeah.
The one in Northwest Creek, they were actually talking about cutting through that shoal.
Is the permit in place?
I think they were gonna modify,
Permits-
no, they were talking about modifying the permit to,
Well, we've been talking about that since they were in there last time.
yeah, but
So,
Can that be done with an excavator?
it can be done as part of the dredging project, they just have to
Needs a
go
dredge.
further out.
It's further
They
out
were
the center
talking
of the
about
harbor.
doing it, they're talking
Oh,
about,
okay.
If you go
we're
through the channel
gonna
and
get them
continue,
sand samples,
to the south.
sediment samples.
the shoal now goes
Northwest
from
Creek.
the county
The one Norman, I
bulkhead just about all the
remember
way
going out there with
across.
Norman Edwards, and we
There used to be a
measured
little
it,
channel
got the sound.
on the west side.
But all of a sudden, it came up that they might be able to do it as an extension of the permit to dredge Northwest Creek, so if they're gonna do that, that should, you know. Have we heard any,
that would be good.
we heard any shoaling problems in relation to 3 Mile Harbor?
There's a little bit of shoaling
There's some maintenance that
further
has
to
to
the
be done
south
and
that needs to be
everything on
done.
that, so.
And there's a hole in the jetty on the east side of the channel entrance that I brought to Kim's attention that should be fixed, because if it's not repaired, the county,
Rock out of
a couple of
place?
rocks out of
Yeah.
place, and when storms are coming from the northeast, it's pushing sand into the channel.
Yeah.
And it's something that we should address, as the county will frown upon that if we don't take proactive steps to
So I guess we
mitigate
should,
shoaling.
so all
due to
3 of
that
those
issue.
should be, yeah. I'd like to see Accabonac done first, though, that,
Yeah, and with Accabonac, is there any, I mean, when we send them our priorities, do we get to describe how we'd like it done in any way? I mean, because there are definitely issues with the way Accabonac was done in the past by the county that led to some of the.
You know, the challenge there
shoaling
is,
issues there.
is the composition of the bottom sediment that they're gonna be dredging, and once it goes from beach-compatible sand to another type of bottom composition, they will not go further. So hopefully that will be
They hit-
beyond
they
the
hit
launching
dark
ramp,
sediment, Organic matter sediment.
because they can't put that on the beach, and we don't have
Right.
really any disposition sites defined within the town
Well,
that
that's
are,
gonna be one of those things, long-term. If we're gonna think about these environmental dredging projects, I think what we're gonna have to start looking at is, and they're doing it in other places, is raising those marshes.
yeah.
Okay, some of those mosquito ditches.
You fill the mosquito
filling
ditches
those
in with the
That's what they're
fines.
doing it over in Rhode Island, Connecticut now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because the rising sea level, and that they recognize the value of adjusting the marsh. And that is,
The fines.
it'd be great to explore a pilot project like that, Jim, you know,
Yeah.
for the upcoming years, get a permit process going,
Try
you know,
to,
whether it's Accabonac
Area
or,
ditches and try filling a small area first.
yep, and do a pilot.
Accabonac would be,
Be a
Accabonac
perfect
is
choice.
perfect.
Perfect choice for that chicken
Larry
foot.
Penny recognized that so many years ago. It's part of the dredging plan, I think,
Well,
for
they've-
Northwest is where we're thinking about that.
You wanna
Marsh.
fill
but
in.
you know,
the-
Accabonac's pretty contained, and there's some specific sites that
We
you
had-
could,
We did a whole sediment survey in there, and there's 4 to 6 inches of sediment on the bottom of that, a lot of that pond. We actually had soundings. We, you know, we found the bottom and,
on which,
in Accabonac Harbor.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of silt
Yeah.
in there,
yeah.
and there's quite a few mosquito dishes, and they all would work together, you know? That would give us the water depth in there. Yeah, that's a project we really should work on. I think that filling the ditches completely instead of.
That's a project, man.
Yeah, but it's.
Look at the aerial, there's a lot of
killing
ditches out
two
there.
birds with one stone.
Miles
as
and
you
miles of
want the water depth.
Start somewhere, though.
Yeah, well, Acabonic's one of the small, it's one of the
Yeah.
smaller ones, so if you're
Yeah,
gonna
not doing
start
enough big
somewhere.
yet.
Yeah, you're gonna do this stuff we wanna
Northwest
do.
Harbor, Northwest Creek, I mean, there's a lot of.
All right, and the last
And
thing under,
The east channel of Napeag is not an option because it's not, it
It's-
doesn't have
Yeah,
authorization
it's not,
permits.
it's not,
That's the
it's not
issue.
relevant to this letter, so, yeah,
not
Because they're
available.
only stuff that has previous authorization permits.
Yeah, otherwise it's a 3-year cycle to get it going.
Didn't we advocate for East Inlet last year though with them? And
That's a $5
nothing?
million project.
I'm aware it's very expensive.
yeah.
And they're not gonna, they're probably
We've
not gonna.
advocated for it, we've made it known that we would like to see them do it.
All right, last thing I have on the new business is Chris Gobler's contract. Rick, you've been working on that?
You have a resolution.
We do.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
in there. I put it in there.
What's it coming up under?
Old bit, it's in old business,
Old
number
business?
5.
Okay. All right, so we'll hold off on that. Trustees' policies and procedures.
I actually did, because I was talking to John John anyway, asked him status of both of these items, trustee policies, procedures, and mental highway deed, and there's been no change.
Rick, do you think it would be beneficial if a couple of the trustees went to a town board meeting?
I think it'll be essential, or nothing's gonna happen.
I spoke to John today. He told me he's walked it around to each town board member, and nobody
Okay.
had any opposition, so he was gonna bring it
Okay.
into the next meeting.
Yeah, he told me on the trustee policies on
Fencing.
beach fencing, he did say only one board member asked him to, see a copy of the old law. No one else gave him feedback. So I did say to him, I said, look, sort of sounds like none of them are having any problems with this. Plus, it's
Right.
not a draconian change to the existing laws, so. I mean, I agree. Maybe he should just bring it in and say, here's a resolution, adopt it next week.
Diane, being that you were involved in that, would you be willing to go?
Definitely,
Okay.
fiercely.
You were there once before to talk about it. I remember.
Traditionally.
Listen, I don't wanna go in there and start a fight.
I'm not gonna start a fight.
Just wanna get it changed to
Why
the
did you want me to
to
fight?
the beach fencing law.
No, it's a simple change, it's a simple change.
This thing's,
It's a year.
it's a year,
It's a year. It's not almost, it's a year now.
and it's, yeah, it's something that shouldn't require a lot of thought.
Yeah, we didn't think that.
Yeah. All right.
Trying to streamline something here, it's.
Next is Georgia Pond dredging. I think we've discussed
Covered
that
that.
tonight, and the Cove, same thing. All right, Chris Gobler, contract.
Can I make mention of something very quickly?
Sure.
I'd like to know if anybody found out if there's some monies available, i.e. that 20%
It's,
CPF money that can be paid towards Chris's bill, because he's now doubled his bill. And he's just one of a number of applications, if you would, that these monies would be really helpful. And the water is all of ours within the town, so I think we have to start thinking about,
Well, how's the bill
Helping us
paid right
with
now?
the
Do we share some of that expense with any of the other agencies?
no,
Okay, but the testing now has been extended to,
has been
Other
increased from like 29 to 49.
Right.
okay.
Doing a lot
It's,
more.
it's,
Automation.
it's covering
or
Georgia Pond,
compounds being tested.
Georgia Pond, 3 Mile Harbor, Accabonac Culvert area.
And Hook Pond. Waynscott Pond, Hook Pond.
I'd like to get a definitive answer about this 20% money.
Brian, I think one issue there is that I don't think that a lot of people designing, the details of how that money is going to be used want to see it going to monitoring and research. It's, as far as I understand, being pushed towards going to actual
Implementation.
Does it matter what they want?
it has to be,
septics and stuff like that.
yeah, but that money has to be geared toward research to a certain project.
Would
And
it just be like general monitoring? of
can't be
it
general
make
monitoring.
Doesn't make me feel
We,
very,
we brought it, up.
fuzzy.
It's been
I mean,
brought,
I know,
it's been
yeah.
brought up to
it's
the,
water quality.
it's been brought up to the committees, it's
Right.
been brought up that, that we should get at least some revenue sharing, and we think the town should extend this testing to Montauk and all the other, water bodies.
Yeah.
I thought they donated so much toward water quality of the CPF money.
No, they're,
Yeah,
they're
20%,
talking
but
about
it's how it's
using
gonna get
20% of it.
Right
Be
now,
used for
right
certain
now,
projects.
money's being used.
I'd like an opportunity to read his proposal for the upcoming year and compare that to what we got from last year.
Can you read it tonight?
Give them a
No.
Back
suggestion.
to us? It's not a lot,
Right,
And-
why does it have to be tonight?
You're at those meetings, right?
because he's already putting stuff in the water and starting the
And he has to
program.
get paid, too.
And we've had this for some time now.
Yeah.
But I've never
I-
seen
You
it.
know, I'm not opposed to paying the gentleman his increased monies. I'm just simply saying that it would be nice to get other agencies to help
If they
us,
could-
if they can, such as this 20% money,
Well-
or even the town for that
Or the
matter.
Friends of Georgia, do they participate in this, in the costs here?
No, they've been doing their own testing.
They
No
hire
one
him for
knows.
other work.
No, we
Okay,
pay for it.
now-
Us.
Now, here's, this may be a dumb question. They've been doing their own testing. What does that mean?
Well, there's a monitoring buoy that's in the pond that feeds, I believe, to the Friends of Georgica website.
Okay.
But I think the
now-
trustees bought that, didn't they?
Yeah, we bought it
Yeah,
earlier, Mark.
yeah, they should be getting any data off of that.
Yeah.
They
Well, they may have a
didn't have a
separate
permit to
buoy.
put in the
Okay.
pond either.
Okay, well, why don't we, that may be a discussion that we can have actually a week from next Tuesday. That might be something we can touch on then. In the meantime, we could ask Kim Shaw whether there's any interest in the town absorbing this, or we suck it up. How much, what's the total cost here?
49?
change.
49
Just under
change.
50?
So it's doubled. It went from 25 to 50.
Well, I think last year there was an incremental, I think, to 34.
We asked
More
for
than
additional.
25 last
so
It was 34 last year.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
34.
Well, I think maybe what we should do too is discuss with
doubled,
Friends
was
of
it?
Georgia, where if there's testing that's being duplicated here by different agencies, I think we probably want to back out of some of those. Some of that testing may be advisable to reconsider.
Possibly.
But the thing is always to consider, whatever data we collect from Dr. Goldberg is our data, and he's working for us. Data that's collected by either Dr. Goldberg or another entity for another association,
Is theirs.
that's theirs, right? So
Yes,
we,
but
you know,
it's-
we don't want a duplication of
But-
effort, that just seems stupid,
No,
ridiculous, waste of money.
but I mean, the
Yeah.
sharing of this information, and if the protocols that are being used on this testing are accredited and accepted, I don't see any reason why we
No,
wouldn't.
because
It
what
would be in
you-
everybody's interest to
What you would
share.
have, though, is that depending upon what your personal interest is and what you want to get from that data,
Mm-hmm.
you can encourage your
Well, you can
person
report it
to,
differently.
yeah, you
The
know,
data's the data, but reporting is
yeah.
subjective.
I would
Saying reporting, you're saying
We've already-
reporting. You're talking about.
Well,
I would go
Yeah,
as,
yeah, I agree with you.
I would go as,
Data can't be recorded by us.
Reported.
I would go as far as to say that personally, I would like to see us reach out to the town and ask them to help us with the increased cost of Dr. Goldberg.
Well, you know what, I do believe that a year or two ago, Kim got $10,000 in her budget line for water quality testing, and Gobler might be doing that for her now in Lake Montauk. So they might be tying in with us a little bit already.
Yeah.
And one thing that's clear is
Find
that
that out.
if, you know, if they have, the town has him, West Georgia has him, and we have him, we should make sure, like Jim said, that none of those testing parameters are overlapping, and we're not doubly
Well, even
checking
that
for certain
aside,
things.
and I agree
Which I
with-
think has already been done. I'm
Yeah.
not too concerned about that, honestly, but.
Well, even that aside, and I agree, I don't want to see the redundancy.
Yeah.
However, okay, these fees are only going to go in one direction as time goes on. And what I'm doing is I'm asking the town to meet us, say, halfway.
I think
Because
it's
these
smart,
waters belong to all of us within the town.
Yeah, we share the data, our data's public.
Yeah.
People can see it.
So
We-
I don't know if I need a
to benefit
motion,
everybody.
but I want to get this thing moving. I don't want it to go into committee. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Let's start the conversation and then revisit it next meeting.
Okay.
But in the meantime, you know, we may be able to get some reimbursement, but we still have to approve whether
I
we're
think we
moving
should.
forward with this contract or not.
Okay.
Because
We'll talk more about it next.
Because I was at the town board meeting Thursday where they tabled, you want me to get up there? You're kind of discussing something that was already discussed by the town board. I'm Rona Klopman. And it was discussed that the 20% for the CPF fund money is going into septic systems. And that's it. Because those are the ones leaching into bodies of water. And they are, I don't know if you can address this separately, but it's not going to be
Do
in
you
the
know how many
20%.
septic systems have to be replaced to keep up with the
Well,
amount of money that's coming in?
they tabled the public hearing. There was supposed to be a public hearing on the law, and they tabled it because there was two words that they're looking at now. One is repair and one is replace. And it depends if you're a person that is having problems, whether you call it a repair or a replacement. Because if you call it a replacement, then it triggers a building permit. So they have to look at this before they are putting it in.
What kind of
for
numbers are
public-
they expecting per year?
A lot.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of money.
Yeah, but the
I
money.
understand, but to spend that amount of money, if they don't spend it all, what they don't spend goes back and can't be touched again.
It goes back into the community
So if
preservation
they-
fund. It
right.
doesn't-
Yeah.
So,
If
so
they
if
earmark it first, it's okay, it still stays.
Yeah.
But the
The earmark
earmark
is-
for that money right now is 20% for septic.
Right, so do they do 100 million a year?
You're talking about the CPF fund?
Yeah, I think
They're
so.
expecting, a
Okay,
lot of
so
money.
we're talking $20 million worth of septic systems that have to be taken care of in 1 year.
Well, you have three, they have a
Seems
water,
impossible to me.
Well, the
a
numbers are-
water district, which, if your house is in that water district, you can get up to
kind of-
15,000.
No, I understand.
We know the
but-
process.
The water, right, the closest.
In the 10-year travel time
Right,
area around the
right.
water body.
And then they have, if you want
If you're in
to,
that, you gotta-
if you just want to change your septic system, you can get up to 10,000. But it
But what I'm
depends where
saying
your
is,
house is.
but what you're telling me is, they want to commit about $20 million a year for people to replace septic systems, and
Well,
ignore
that's a
every other,
priority. No, but
ignore
that's-
every other possibility of cleaning
I'm
up.
just telling you
Lucky to
what
get
the
20
town.
people to do it the first year.
I'm
I'm
just
just telling you what.
I know, it sounds
Yeah.
insane to
But you
me,
know
and
what,
to
the
request
trustees,
something like
the
this.
trustees should go to the public hearing when they said it. I mean, that's your opportunity to talk.
Yeah, we will.
I mean, I will say that septics are the
Thank
number
you.
one issue, and
Thank you, Rona.
to ultimately fix the algae bloom problems and the nutrient loading
Yeah.
problems,
No,
we have to
it-
address
it
the
all
septic
has to be
systems
done.
first,
This-
and then the mitigation of algae blooms has to happen at the same time, yeah,
Right.
but, I mean, I think that septics are the way to go, because they're really,
You know,
it's just
It's a
cutting
way
out
to
the
go,
input. I mean,
But,
Can I
but
say
my
what-
point is, they're not gonna do $20 million worth
3
per
years
year.
If they earmark it, I think that's what I was trying to say, if they earmark it
Ever.
first year.
And each year it
then
builds
It
up.
can go for 3, that money's available to use for 3 years for that
So I
purpose.
guess the issue before us right
Francis,
now.
where are we leaving
so
off with Dr.
frustrated.
Gobler?
Bill,
I think we
We need
should,
to-
I'd like to make a motion that we accept his proposal and make the first payment.
yeah, and I'll second that motion.
I have a question. He mentions in here twice about Georgia Pond being partially supported by external funds. So I'd like a little clarification on exactly what that means, how that's gonna work.
That what?
And
What
how
was that, Diane?
The Georgia and Hook Pond work is partially supported by external funds. So,
Supported?
Which are
yeah,
monies that he,
money
By
that
who?
he's getting,
over and above
Yeah.
what we give him.
yeah,
Right, so the only thing that could happen is, we would be footing the whole bill.
Well, you're limited, the resolution limits you to this. Now, if he gets less money from outside, I mean, he doesn't specify how much money is coming, from anywhere else.
Right.
So, we don't know, obviously, this limits how much you have to pay, this is what you'd be agreeing to pay.
Right.
But Diane's right, we don't know where the money, we don't know what money's coming from the outside, or, how that factors in, will he do less work, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, all we know is, we're getting a certain amount of work, it's not, we don't have, there aren't benchmarks in this resolution, or even in this proposal. We don't say, you have to do X amount of this and X amount of that. The benchmarks are, you're gonna give us a report at the end of the year. You're gonna do, we don't, in other words, we don't say, it's not specific, how do we know how much he's going to do? We're sort of, going off what he's done in the past.
Yeah, the progress, the whole process is years ago, asked him to start doing water testing. And each year's gotten more and more involved, and where we requested him to do this work already.
Does he do a breakdown of his costs, where the,
No.
Not in the proposal, I saw.
well, you know what, ask that's,
That would be good, yeah.
Yeah?
I think that's important, so we see.
So it sounds like we have enough questions to wait 2 weeks.
well, actually, to
we
validate,
should
to
wait for
validate what he's charging this year, he should certainly have some sort of a breakdown of where his expenses ran last year.
His reason for the increase, Jim, excuse me, was that other like agencies were charging a lot more, and he had discovered that, and now his fees are going up. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but that was the gist of it. He was undercharging us, which, you know, I don't know his business.
We did say
Okay.
the increase in sites is something like, at least like 40% more or something like that. So it's,
Well,
Hey, he's the guy. I think he's thorough. I think he
Yeah, yeah.
does a good job. I like his presentations. I'm in favor of paying, and if the 20% is not available from the CPF, I still would, at a later point, not much later, like to ask the town to help us out.
yeah, I understand.
That's all.
Yeah,
And I think as far as friends.
One question I have actually about the resolution is, I don't know how you guys, I don't know what your system is for payment. I put in a provision similar to what the town does. I said that payment shall be made upon submission of proper vouchers therefore. Do you guys use vouchers?
No.
No. No, they've been paying through their own funds.
But I mean, what generates the payment to the, we don't pay them one lump sum, right?
Yes,
Do we really?
yes,
The beginning or the end?
yes,
At the beginning or at the end?
the whole thing.
At the
In the
beginning?
beginning.
upfront.
No, I think it should be like a third.
Well, we've always given them one lump
The,
sum.
the payment doesn't go directly to Chris Gobler, it goes to the
It goes to the
university.
State University in New York. I
Right.
mean, it's not a,
I did glance over it, I didn't,
Yeah, I mean, it's a good project. Getting this baseline data is really important. We want to keep doing that. But I just think because none of us are experts in
hey, Diane. I think
contracts and
you-
whatnot,
you
we should
raising
know.
questions here is a good thing, but can I make a suggestion that we go back to Chris and ask him for a more detailed proposal
Itemized one.
and propose costs? And he can do it based on what his expenses were last year, because clearly, if he's raising his prices, I'm sure he's got to do some cost evaluation of what his overhead is in doing this work, and,
There's two components. It is more testing and it is an increase in cost.
no, I understand that, but as such, where were our big expenses last year? What kind of testing? And what kind of testing? What was the frequency of the testing?
Yeah, I mean,
What were the?
It would have been nice if you guys had reviewed this weeks ago when it came in. Now he's starting the program.
Vague sentence of, cover the cost of personnel.
You know, you wait till the last minute and now all the questions come up.
my resolution
It's not
tracks
fair.
his proposal, but the proposal is, it's brief. So.
What's the date on that?
Huh? I didn't see a date on it.
That's,
May 7th.
This isn't dated, but this has been kicking around for a while,
Okay,
for everybody to
Well, he,
review.
got our attention
Never.
now.
it's an
I haven't seen
expansion
it.
of
I
a.
mean,
It's been there, everybody,
I'll check the email
everybody
threads.
was
I believe
notified it
everyone
was
was
there.
named.
It went out.
No, we got it.
Went
We
to
did
11,
get it.
it went to 11 members.
Discussed it, so here we are discussing.
A copy of
More
it?
time.
Email threads.
Yes,
Always
Yeah, we
getting
got it.
called on
Through
threads.
through Lori, got an email.
The last thing I'll say about the payment to Dr. Gobler is it may be as simple as a phone call to Stony Brook to ask them if they would allow us to do half now, half later, or different terms. It may be something as simple as that.
I think that's,
We're not hurting for money.
No,
We want
but
the
the
program.
principle is if you pay the guy up front,
Well, we're dealing with a,
And we're
we're
unhappy
dealing
for
with a
some reason.
university. I mean,
well, he ain't spending 50 grand in one shot.
Right, but you're dealing with public funds, you have people out there watching, and they're saying, these guys don't know exactly how this money's being spent. These are our representatives. We need to be sure that we know what's, just a little more clearer on how it's all getting put together and spent.
We'll get a more detailed proposal for the
Yeah,
next
that's
meeting,
all.
and we should be
Yeah.
able to move forward.
Okay, table.
Well said, Dan.
So who is that?
I'll reach out to Dr. Gobler.
Okay.
Dan, I just want to make a point
there
that,
was a
you know, Friends
motion
of the Pond, the
made.
data they
There
get, they
was a-
share with us too.
I think that motion's being tabled, Jim. You gonna table that?
Yeah,
I
they,
don't really think there's, however much money they're paying him, I don't think
Right, no
it
motion.
negatively impacts anything, as long as we're seeing their data, and as long as nothing's overlapping, we're not having redundant tests done.
We'll vet out the Georgia issue and get a more detailed proposal.
Okay. Committee reports, Accabonacock Creek, Franny, 107 Gerard Drive, as-built survey received.
okay. Franny, I would like an opportunity to look a little bit more into their file. There's a revetment shown on the as-built survey that wasn't shown on the survey attached to the original application. So I'd like a little bit more time to review that.
Have you been by the property?
I'm just looking at the file. Mhm. The permit was for stone armor, seawood.
Yeah, that's scallop
and-
pads, whatever.
Yeah. I want to make sure it all jives.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to look at the property yet, I wanna do that too.
Okay, tabled. No spray trial area proposed.
Okay, so I did watch the last meeting, sorry I wasn't able to be here. I heard, you know, what Kevin had to say. And, you know, we do have a proposed area essentially. Here it is, I've emailed this to you guys before, I believe, and I've emailed Tom at Vector Control. So we're thinking about going for the north part of Accabonac Harbor, which we've all discussed before. He sent me a map from Vector Control of the actual spray areas, and they break each harbor, or each, you know, basically each harbor, into separate blocks, and they have numbers. So Accabonac Harbor has numbers, you know, EH 144, EH 145. So he asked me, you know, he asked that we pick out kind of which blocks would be part of our, you know, spray trial area, and then he can eliminate those blocks that affect that part of the harbor. So I kind of just circled the blocks there. I mean, of course, that red circle there, you know, is not the extent of the water that is included in the trial, just the blocks that they spray.
Is that the
So that's-
agreed location?
No, this is the proposed location as it stands right now.
Okay.
Have they
Per our previous
responded, have
discussions.
they responded
I
to
have
that?
not heard back from Tom, though. I emailed him May 5th. So
Okay.
I'm concerned that for some reason he doesn't like it or something.
Okay, now you do you do know that, some of these areas were on for this week's spraying?
Sure, but this isn't happening until next year anyway.
Okay.
This
All right.
trial's, no spray trial is next
Okay.
year.
2018.
not
No,
this
but
year.
you want to start collecting any
I
data
want to
as
start
soon as
collecting data soon,
possible.
yes. And we
So-
have Gobler getting the water quality data. And I have to agree with some of Kevin's points from last meeting, and that, you know, it's extremely expensive, it's extremely time-consuming to test for biological parameters, to test like, are dragonflies returning more because of the no spray? It's really hard and really expensive to actually test for that, and you can't even see much if you have 1 year of baseline data, and then you're going for 3 more years. It's hard to compare those things. You have so much variability in each year.
I gotta
So
tell you, from a
I think the best way to
Go ahead.
go about this is to do the no spray trial, and as long as we, you know, don't see you know, some increase in disease, which I really don't think we'll see, then I think it kind of shows that spraying is unnecessary because it's not actually reducing disease pressure, if that is the case.
It's one of the most frustrating things as a layperson to think that this chemical could in fact be doing such damage to our marshes, and yet the other side say, oh, no, it's not, it's, you know, it's mother's milk. It's really, it's disheartening. It really is.
I think, hey, Tyler, have you had any kind of dialogue or interaction with essentially the neighbors adjacent?
There are a
to
few
these?
people over there who've been pretty active
ready
in this so far, who've
by our
been
name.
talking to me and talking to us.
Because-
And some people in the neighborhood have kind of been doing some outreach work, talking to their neighbors about it and getting it out
'Cause
there.
I
But I
think
hope
if
that
you
once we
could-
develop a proposed area, we can really put it out to the public and say, hey, this is the area, what do people think? Give us your feedback.
Yeah, but we're
Well,
actually going to need
I
signed,
think what you're gonna need really to collect
Releases from
some-
these people.
Some written support
yeah.
from the neighborhood on this. And you know, what my thought is this, is, you know, okay, you've got this north section, but you know, if you could get like a significant list of the adjacent neighbors petitioning the county to not spray this area as part of a trial. If you
Maybe
could get the
they'll
people there to
expand.
sign up, where maybe if you could get this whole body of water incorporated into this, well, then I think you really do have something that you can get some measurable results. It's gonna be very difficult here.
Yeah.
I understand Kevin's comment, but you know, at the same time, I think you gotta start someplace, and
That's what I felt.
it's baby
If they won't let us
steps
do the
here.
whole harbor, we gotta do part of it at least. I mean,
But you've got a year that you can then petition people and see if you can get names, get people to sign up and be part of the study, because that's something that the county can and will respond to, I think.
Yeah, that's what they respond most to, is people's calls. and
Because
stuff like
let's
that.
face it, if you call and say a mosquito bit me, they do respond to that, so.
But the Agawanic Protection Committee would be really helpful.
Yeah, they have been, actually, I've talked to members of them
Yeah.
too.
Okay.
So basically, this is the if people have, we all have more comments about this proposed area.
Well, I
Let's
think you
discuss
stand,
it.
you stand a chance of not having drifting spray. At least it's a large enough area that you may be able to delineate it from a
Yeah,
testing
that's
perspective
what
or
I'm hoping.
observation perspective.
That's what I'm telling
If
Tom.
it's
about
one of these
control.
particular zones, I don't think you'd really ever,
Right, if you just cut out one of those zones, it's not gonna.
I don't think you're gonna be able to measure it.
Jim, this reminds me of the guy that has bees across the street and the neighbor sprays, right? Has a guy come in and spray for like gypsy moths, and the wind blows over and kills the guy's honeybees, you know,
It's a chance you take with honeybees.
right? But I mean, in terms of like the wind blowing over to this area, there's some variables, right?
No, but I think,
So what's the next thing you're doing with
We
this?
can have that attitude.
The next thing is getting this kind of proposed trial area approved by this board and by vector control so that we can vet it with the
Expand it.
public. Well, so that we can put it out there and get comments from the public about the proposed trial area.
So you're gonna continue speaking with the county until you get feedback?
Yeah,
On
and
their
and I want to know,
approval.
if we all agree that this is the area we want to propose.
It'll be fine.
well, I
think
think
you
we've
already
all
have that.
agreed.
Yeah.
I think, I don't think we need to go backwards here. I think
Yeah.
we've all agreed
Yeah.
that this area is acceptable. But Tyler, I think what really should happen now is I would go boldly forth with this, collecting names,
Not a big area, bigger area.
collecting names and tax map numbers and plotting this all out and carry that, because you're gonna have this conversation with the county when they say, well, yeah, we're kind of on board with this, but how do the neighbors feel about it?
course, that's like
So
that's the
I'd
main-
be ready to answer the next question,
Excuse me.
Yeah, I'll reach out to homeowners, and if this is okay, though, I mean, I want it to kind of be public now that this is the proposed area. I don't know if we can, I guess we could send the star or something, a map of what the area is like, something like that.
You could say that's our intention.
Just
Yeah,
a
yeah.
proposal,
I wish
Yeah.
the time got better with the
Yeah,
last
see if
article
you
on this
can
thing.
gather some momentum with
I wish
this.
they had the info on this, or they called me to
Deb,
check,
hello?
because I did know what the area would be.
yeah.
All right, yep. We'll
sounds
get this
great
out
that
to the
we
public
got
then,
that.
and I'll continue to talk to homeowners in the area, and if anyone else, has any other input or wants to help, and reaching out to anybody they know, please
Want to make the
do.
boundary like the road here?
Basically, I mean, yeah. I've looked into the ownership of a lot of these properties on the GIS in the office. I mean, a lot of it's Nature Conservancy, which is good, and they're on board
No,
already.
these-
I've already
these
talked to
properties
TNC,
here are all-
they
Did
like
you get
it.
it, have you gotten any letter or anything from?
I have to get a written thing from TNC still, definitely.
Are you guys gonna make a motion to approve the area?
I thought we
I think
already
we have to.
I
Well, we'd never actually selected the exact area, and now that we have the map with the breakdown of the sites, I can put it on the camera or something.
Well, I don't think we have to approve each step
No,
along
but
the
this-
way here.
this is
Now,
gonna
let's
be the
get this
start of a
project-
Yeah.
Yeah,
This will be the start of a dialogue with the
Yeah,
vector
let's get the
control,
project,
yeah. Okay, so everyone agreed, this is, I don't think we need a
Proposed.
motion, I don't think we need a motion to approve the
Yeah,
area.
conceptual
So,
understanding.
Yeah,
That's where we're at.
all right, this is the
Go to
area.
the
with-
tax assessor. They'll give you all the information you need.
We have it on the computer at the office. You can
Of
open
all these
the
homeowners,
GIS, and you can click on any property, it tells you who owns it and everything.
you can do that.
I've been doing it.
But they can, they already have it. They could just
Yeah.
push the
True.
button.
Okay.
All right,
Francis,
yes.
Susan,
someone in the audience wanted to speak.
wanna come on up?
Good evening,
All
I'm
this
Susan
side of this
McGraw,
road,
keeper, and I just wanted to let you know that I did attend the Acabonic Committee, Protection Committee meeting, and in the notes, there is on change.org, a petition for the methoprene so that the neighbors can sign up. So
Thank you.
just wanted to let you know that.
All right,
Last
great.
I saw, there were like 600 names on
Yeah, I
that.
think it's some 630 or so, yeah.
Got a head start on it already.
Mhm.
I think to start with it,
I would still
actually,
pursue
it's
that
from.
property owners, but you know what? What's
Yeah,
gonna
I think Edwina started it.
neutralize
Yeah.
the very people.
Okay.
that gonna be calling up, asking for spray.
Again, it doesn't say there's a photo earlier than.
Yeah.
You guys ready? Move on?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Barndale, 285 Kings Point Road, bulkhead repair, submitted as-built survey and photos.
I reviewed the file, and based on that, I'd say everything is in order.
I agree. I've looked at the file, and I saw it before the work and after the work.
Okay.
You visited the site?
Yes.
So,
Okay.
if necessary, we can notify the building inspector that work has been completed according to the permit.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
Sure.
Is there a second?
Aye, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Sullivan, 93 Gerard Drive.
That one we did earlier with,
Okay.
Bistrian.
Mm-hmm. Rose Can, 313 Kings Point Road, copy of planning plan and verification form received.
That was approved earlier. We had just, as a condition of the permit, we asked for that. So,
Okay.
Yeah, we had approved them 2 meetings ago, I think, right? And then we asked that they
yes.
send us the planting list and
And they
everything,
did.
and we got it, which is
Yeah.
nice.
Okay.
Beaches.
I've got another notice of a public hearing here in the village.
The ZBA, 174 Further Lane?
174 Further Lane.
Yes.
Oh, it's
then
down on
that.
beaches,
It's
okay.
on beaches.
Variances are required, this is from May 3rd. Did we read this one already?
Is that the one you went and looked at already?
Yes. Oh, God, I went and looked at this. It really, the deal here is this, is that on that property, they had cleared beyond what they were allowed to clear anyway. They had agreed to replant a given portion up to the 20-foot contour. But what they were asking for, and it didn't look like the village was looking to give it to them, is they were asking to put the drywells for the swimming pool in that revegetation area. I spoke with Kenny Cullum, and he assured me that the village wasn't gonna go along with that. This is a pretty heavily impacted site, and they had some alternative locations where they were looking to put those dry wells. So it was kind of a mood issue. And as far as the beaches, this is down in the double dune areas, so you're looking at a few hundred feet from where this is going on to the actual edge of beach grass. It really is truly out of our realm, and it seemed like the village had it well under control.
Okay, high school scholarship applications.
I have Adopt a Beach program on my agenda. Francis, do you have that?
Yes.
Yes,
South
maybe-
Beach. We'll go there first.
Yeah, okay.
Off the beach, okay. Basically, I just put the finishing touches on the agreement document, which I worked with the parties and kind of morphing from the Adopt a Road thing. And I'm gonna send that around to the rest of the board to see if you have any final, changes or input to that document. And then once that, has been kind of reviewed by you guys and I make any changes, I think we'll be probably ready to have some kind of motion or resolution to actually institute the program by next meeting, hopefully. I do hope to maybe meet with Beaches Committee people, I think Rick and Jim, right?
I'm not on the committee, but I'm available to discuss it with you if you'd like.
Dan, if you want to come to Rick, please do, but I want to kind of sit down and just flesh out some other final details. Just things, again, things about how and when we're going to make them do these cleanups, 4 cleanups, 6 cleanups a year, something like that is what I'm thinking. Pushing them more towards the summer season possibly, maybe having like 2 cleanups in the off-season and 4 in the summer season, something like that is a thought, or just 4 throughout the year. Other issues are, how do we incentivize them? So, do we develop, like, a plaque they can hang in their business or something? But if it's not a business, then what do they get? Definitely, I'd like to do something in the paper every year, so whatever our newspaper of record is, whether it's a Star or, in future boards maybe, we can put a thing in the paper saying, these are our, our speech sponsors, and thank you for your good work. And so just kind of,
Well, I think what you can
publicity
also
for
do is reach out to some of the other civic organizations, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Rotary Lions,
Yeah.
some of the other organizations that may be able to partner
yeah, that
with
is
you
nice. I've talked to a
on
couple,
giving beaches.
One issue I've run into is that I'm really trying to get a list of existing cleanups together, and it's just really hard and time-consuming. And
Well, it's a lot of
I've heard
people-
tell that there are lists out there of some kind, but no one's been able to get them to me. So if anybody wants to, again, email us or chime in on beach cleanups that are happening, that you know about, that are annual, that we can kind of have on our radar, so we can plan which beaches are the top priority for adoption or sponsorship, and that would be really helpful for the process too. I don't know if you had concerns about the word adopt, or anybody else does. I mean, there are other options for wording, there's, but in the agreement, there is a great statement that says, there is no intent of ownership or privatization or claims in any way to ownership of this stretch of beach. It's purely, a partnership to keep the beach clean.
You can't have too many beach cleanups.
Steward's a possible word, it could be a beach stewardship program, it could be a beach sponsorship program, or adopt a beach, whatever.
Okay.
Or adopt
I
a
guess
beach.
the
Adopt
adopt
a
a
beach
road
is
doesn't
nice and-
bother anything. They have nobody's claim.
Plain and simple.
Claim
Just say,
to
"This is my
Sunrise
road, 'cause I
Highway
cleaned
or
it up
anything
every-"
like that, right?
Okay.
That's it for now.
Okay.
I'd look forward to meeting with a couple of us to finalize this.
Okay. Scholarship.
Yep, Rick and I had a telephone conversation. He was at the office. We looked at all the folks that had submitted their votes.
I
and
voted too, yeah.
Yep, so we have a winner. We have notified the high school. We will keep that name secret until after the presentation ceremony. And I think we have a letter here that's inviting us to there's an appreciation reception prior to the actual award ceremony. I forget what date that is. Does it say in your letter, Francis?
I don't have a copy of it
Oh,
here.
okay. I think it's early June.
June
Yeah.
sometime.
Yeah, it's usually midweek. It is very nice. It's a very nice event to go to. I think last year they reported over $300,000 had been given out locally to, graduating students. It's really, it's
For the 1 year.
phenomenal, yeah.
There's the
Nice.
fuzzy feeling, Brian.
Yeah,
The fuzzy feeling you were looking for?
Yeah, no, I got it.
yeah.
Feels
So what we'll
good.
do is, after the ceremony, we'll give her a little certificate, and once she shows us that she's enrolled, not she, but they are enrolled in school.
Hey, Diane.
Come on.
Okay, that narrows
Oh, yeah, shoot. Anyway, enough
it
said.
down. Let me just say one thing about this process, and I've been on a few of them. And I'm going out on a limb, but you know what? I don't care. There was one or two folks who really did a nice job. And I've put 4 boys through school, and I know fast homework when I see it. And they got it, this is a scholarship. You gotta do more than a few lines. That's it, thank you. Good God.
Yeah, yeah.
Throw some pictures in, be creative, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, last year's winner made a film, right?
huh?
Last year's winner was the film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Anyway, I just.
Drones involved.
Yeah.
That's what makes one better than the rest.
No, I know. With a little bit of effort, you could be in the race, you could be in the hunt. But it takes more than just 2 or 3 sentences, excuse me.
All right, Georgica Ponds, Phragmites Control Applications, Ackerman, 290 Georgica Road.
This is one that I will call Eric and see it seems that this was more of a notion on their part. They've never submitted anything past the original.
It's been sitting here for
It's-
quite a
It's
while.
almost a year ago now.
Yes, it'll be a year, I think, in July.
See if they mean it.
Gallo, I'll look back, we gotta see where that's at, because again, this is another one that nothing ever came back after the initial thing. One Association Road, updates on that, they do have their DEC permits. The town has issued their response to the environmental assessment form, and we have a letter that Lori crafted today that we're looking to send to the applicant. When we met on this property, Rick and I, a year ago, we asked for certain changes to the plan. To date, pretty much all of those changes were either very minimal or nothing, or not at all, what we talked about. We outlined that in a letter, and that's going out to the, and Lori, I looked at that, it's fine. That'll go out to the applicant tomorrow. Perella? Lori, did we get any revised drawings or
Yes.
anything? You did?
Francis.
Oh, they
You
look
have
real.
that?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to
Oh, wow.
see them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they're
Okay.
fine.
Are you as excited as I am?
I am.
Maybe you
Jimmy
should.
and I,
Maybe you
we initially
maybe you
went
should.
there and, you know,
Okay.
we didn't really get nice drawings, that picture we got.
But hang on, I think we may have something more definitive here. No, this looks familiar.
That's the cardiogram, right?
Okay, well, let's see. We have a complete application. The application is fine. It does list all of the adjacent homeowners.
It's like opening
Uh,
Christmas presents.
Yeah.
And we now have a survey outlining the proposed areas. If anybody would like to
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
look this over. It's about 200 feet, it looks like on the drawing, and it matches the more detailed plan. Maybe we could pass this back. 250 feet.
Matt just fell off his chair.
I really hope that this
Probably watching
detail
the ball
would give
game.
you diameter of core log, spacing of, you know, some specifications on how it's being installed.
200 feet of shoreline, if they're gonna use core logs on, all 200 feet?
Yeah, and actually, it shouldn't be 1-by-1 stakes, they should be 2-by-2 hardwood stakes.
What do they have written down?
Or is it
Sure they
this?
meant 1 inch, but.
This is-
Well, these have 1 inch by 1 foot,
There's different sections.
2-by-2 by,
2 by 1.
usually 3 or 4.
Just keep it all together.
Concentration.
No, especially when you get a 12-inch core log.
I go in here with some, I guess, with the
Okay.
core log. I don't see that.
You're not gonna make a motion tonight, right?
No,
Oh, those, yeah, core logs.
no, I'd like to, but I don't think it's,
He's putting his core logs in the pond.
Might not be
Gonna
appropriate.
change, couple of changes.
Don't agree
Needs a
with
couple of changes.
I think what we'll do is we'll basically tell them what
When I was
Yeah.
there with Jimmy, he was kind of.
on the core logs, because you know what, if you do them right, they're very effective.
Jim?
Yeah, they are.
I still see on this survey here that the proposed location for the logs is outside the deed, it's in the pond. It's outside his deed line. Deed line is written right on here. So he's putting this stuff in the
Hey,
pond.
Diane, you noticed that too?
Yes.
They're,
Okay.
they're in the pond?
I noticed it last,
Well, to a degree, Diane, some of these core logs would truly be in what I would describe as the pond. Okay, but
Oh, they can't be in
I-
the pond.
no, hang on. What has happened on this property is portions of the shoreline, they slough off, you get some wave action in between them, but the actual shoreline is more or less still intact, but it's almost like an island. And what I did make a suggestion to Mr. Donahue is to encapsulate those, plant them. And usually what'll happen is the area behind will actually, without bringing in fill, it'll begin to vegetate and fill in behind. So some of that, I think, would be okay. But yeah, I think this is more like a typo, and I think maybe, Lori, what we should do is write down a hit list, just make these changes, and then we can vote on this thing and move it along.
So if it does indeed, kind of turn water into land,
That's
going
that's
back
not,
to how it used
I
to be.
just
I know
wanna
this
make
is
sure,
kind of
that
trying to
isn't,
preempt
that
Diane's
is
concern
not,
here.
that is not the project that was laid out for us, and I don't believe that's the intention.
No,
I
no,
think
no,
it's
that's what I'm
more or
saying.
less just a typo.
If that does happen, it will be in places
Here
where there
that
always was
we're-
land anyway.
Just basically, that's a
remember
red
something.
magic marker in the wrong spot.
Water boundaries, shoreline boundaries move.
Yes, we know.
Yes.
They move. I
I'm not
mean,
trying to get into that discussion. I'm just
Yeah.
trying
But
to say.
survey
for
deed lines
Diane's
don't.
Concerns.
Okay,
I know she's
but
gonna have.
can I tell you what I think we can do is do this two ways. One, on the depiction, two, on a written specification, and I think we can clear this whole thing up and maybe move this forward.
I do too, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this could go back to Lori.
I think it's gonna be some hand-holding too with this project. Yeah, which is fine.
Well,
Get it right.
Who's doing the work?
Greg Donnie,
He knows how to do it.
he knows how to do it. It's
Yeah,
the-
I know he
it's the-
does.
That was his drawings?
Yes, it's the paperwork that's here.
All right. Birch, 31 Turbo Lane,
Okay,
Phragmites
that's another
removal.
one of land uses, is it land use?
Yes.
It's Chuck Bowman. Anyway, I met with Chuck Bowman about a week ago. It's simply a cutting of Phragmites. This property had a permit several years ago. Unfortunately, they did not renew the permit, but they have been pretty diligent about cutting the Phragmites, and the results are positive. I think in the end, we want to issue a permit on this, but what I did ask the applicant's agent is if there's a possibility of moving, getting a little buffer between the pond. It's a very narrow sliver of Phragmites, and there's some very nice lawn that runs up to it, and he thought that the applicant may be willing to give back a few feet and get a little better buffer area. Now, while I was there, I observed the property next door has been, basically, they've been cutting their Phragmites too, and they've been doing a pretty good job as well, except they've never gotten permits. And actually, I think Lori has reached out to, Lori, did you speak to the owner or their attorney?
It was the attorney.
The attorney, and I think we'll be hearing from them soon to.
All right. And finally, MMR Holdings LLC, 81 North Briar Patch.
I think that's one that we've already approved.
Yeah, that's what I
And
thought.
all we were doing is waiting for the revised plans that Jim had sent us, which I guess we've
We
got.
have them, yes.
Yes,
Okay. So I don't think that needs a motion.
no.
Okay. Harbor Management Report.
Yeah, at our last meeting, we focused on the Deepwater Wind Farm project, and we had some great speakers from the public in attendance, and ended up, I think, with some really great input on the project. I was certainly informed and enlightened by some of the discussion that took place, and we are in the process of developing a summary document to try and organize the reams of information that are out there on this project. And we will be holding another Harbor Management Committee meeting on June 14th, and some of the members in attendance at the last meeting will be revisiting us, and we're looking forward to developing a really good working document that will help, I think, organize and present this information intelligently to the community.
Do you have both sides represented there?
We did. We had members of the environmental community. We had a member of Surfrider there from the Sustainable Energy Committee in town, members of the commercial fishing community. So it was a pretty diverse group. And we welcome, other attendees at our next meeting if they'd like to discuss the project with us.
How many other trustees go with you? I'd like to come, but I don't want to.
Typically, it's Jim and I. Francis is available sometimes, but he's had a lot of other commitments. So if you want to check in as we approach and see who's,
If there aren't already 4 trustees going.
yeah, it was a nice group.
Was it more favorable, or,
Well,
in your
it was
opinion?
a fiery discussion, but it was
Yeah.
very positive overall. very informative.
I think the most positive thing that came out of the discussion was there were some people who were there that were very strongly in favor of alternative energy. But those individuals seem to recognize the fact that you could be in favor of alternative energy and not necessarily be in favor of this project. Because if the trade-off is an industry, if the trade-off is a real severe impact to our resources here, well, then the value isn't really there. And actually, one of the people that was there offered some great insight into sort of maybe the practical realities that are out there that might even make this project moot for as an asset to our area. So.
Yeah, one thing in sustainability that's big is, as we move towards renewable energy away from fossil fuels, you're gonna have to cite renewable energy projects, and when you do, you have to be so careful that you're not jeopardizing other environmental resources and environmental aspects.
And in this case, there are alternatives.
Or to make the environment worse off, I mean, you're negating the benefits that you're getting from
Trying to accomplish.
alternative energy, so.
We're just like anybody else in the town, we have concerns.
Yeah.
Concerning the project. I mean, the initial knee jerk is, oh, it feels good, wind.
Great.
But as we delve deeper in, we say, well, wait a minute, this is a concern. And I think it's important that, the public is aware that as individuals and collectively, we have many of the same concerns that all of East Hampton has.
And I think there's an opportunity for these meetings at the harbor management level to bring forward a good perspective to the public, and maybe have another meeting here at the board level in the future, maybe by midsummer, where we have more information to discuss, and invite some of the members from the previous meeting back.
Good idea. There are definitely gonna be things that we can really affect, I think, especially the landing of the cable. We can really, that's something that's gonna come down to us, our approval too, at some point, if it goes forward. I don't like where it's proposed now myself, so.
And, we are continuing to discuss dredging opportunities, and we'd also like to have Kim Shaw maybe attend one of our trustee board meetings to share some of the more, relevant details on the permitting process and planning effort that she's done to date. She's done a good job in keeping the dredging torch moving forward.
I did speak to her about possibility of coming to our meeting.
Great. Okay, great. Well, maybe we
She
can,
seemed pretty positive about it.
maybe we can extend an invitation to one of the upcoming meetings to have her join us.
Yeah, but another public information meeting about the wind project is a great idea.
Yeah. And I think we'll have our document ready by July.
Yeah, this is one of those things you really gotta, the devil's really in the details with this stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Napeag Lazy Point launching ramp.
Okay, this thing's been sort of slowly plodding along. Francis, you received a call from DEC today.
Yes.
Wondering why why our agent is not responding. But, I'd like to suggest that we put moving forward on this launching ramp on hold for the moment, because it's a bigger issue than a launching ramp. This came to us, and I'm not even quite sure how it came to us. This was brought back from the town board. We're willing to pay for the launching ramp if you guys get it designed. Well, that sounds all good, but in speaking with some of the user groups on the launching ramp, in speaking with some of the fishermen about the launching ramp, and this is something that did come, we did have a meeting at the harbor management level about this, that the bigger issue here seems to be not the launching ramp, but the channel itself is being in the wrong spot. It's hazardous to launch your boat there, and just replacing this launching ramp and adding some sidewalls to it, which is essentially what's being proposed right now. In all honesty, we're going to be spending $300,000+ of the public's money on something that isn't solving the initial problem and may actually aggravate the erosion issues over there. What we'd really like to do is deal with something more comprehensive and if we're gonna throw 300 grand, it might be better put towards a better dredging project, which may very well tie into Kim Barber's work on Napeague Harbor and improving the exchange, the water exchange there and that.
It'd make the ramp safer,
It'd
improve
make
the
the
water
ramp
quality.
safer, it would put the ramp in a lee. It may actually help with the erosion issues along that stretch of beach, which, God, for many years, that was never an issue over there. Until we moved the channel.
Yep.
So that's where that is.
We did it, though.
Well, we
Well-
collectively, listen, we take responsibility for it, and
We didn't put
try
the
and
tr-
fix it.
Put it in. We didn't put that ramp in.
The ramp, no,
We're
no.
talking
No,
about
I'm talking about
channel.
the dredging,
Yeah,
the
the
contract.
dredging, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm asking for the board's approval to ask the DEC to temporarily put the permit process on hold while we review
Work out
the,
details.
yeah.
Because I would like to move, really, I don't want to sit on this, I'd like to move forward with this, especially given that we're talking about dredging and we're talking about these other things.
Yeah, I'll be okay with that.
All right.
Yeah.
You guys all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Okay.
channel's the cause of the problem there, it seems.
Yeah.
Not the-
Put that in the letter.
Okay, Greco sand replacement.
Okay, I went and visited this site. They really, really, really need sand now. Okay, this isn't the first time that they've added sand on this site. If the permit is in order, I would like to make a motion that we approve it.
Where are they getting it from?
The sand? They're just getting white sand, beach
By how
compatible
much? How
sand.
much?
What did it have in the permit? It was a few hundred yards, 300 yards. It's consistent with what they've added in the past.
It's all done in a day.
Yeah.
A little skid steer.
And it's just a sand solution, soft solution?
It's the only, you know what it is, yeah, they're right, almost kind of on the point there. You can see clearly, there's old bits of piling and stuff way out in front of this house, where the shoreline used to be, and,
Dramatic change.
Yeah, let's have them
Yeah.
take care of it.
yeah,
Okay.
Need a motion for that?
yeah. I'd like to make a motion, we approve it with, as long as all the conditions are right,
I'd second the
How
motion.
often does this happen? I mean, have they applied every year for this?
more or less.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, isn't this the kind of issue where they have to move the house eventually?
No, not yet.
Nothing serious?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Just moving an entire house?
Not
Probably
yet.
not in
You
our
can see that
lifetime.
house that's sitting up on pylons from this
From the
house.
place, yeah. It's on their mind.
So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
All in favor?
Okay with it, yeah, just wanted to
Aye.
say that.
Aye.
Yep.
Okay.
This is a homeowner who is annually maintaining his
Yep.
shorefront property.
And I spoke to Mr. Greco today. He was very appreciative.
Done.
Jim, is there any opportunity to do sand fencing or planting project with him?
He could do that, but this isn't a site where really it's
Not conducive?
the wind. I gotta tell you, it's just, like, you're just at that little round of a point there.
Scour section?
While you're standing there looking at it, you're
It's shifting.
watching stuff
Is
move.
it in a spot where the inlet, big channel?
It's not
is
the
affecting
inlet,
it at
no,
all?
no,
I don't know
no.
what
It's
the property
way
is.
away from the inlet. It's
west
way
of
to the
that?
west of
Yeah,
that.
okay.
It's just
Yeah,
the end of
it's at
Littoral
of
Drift.
Bayview. It's right at the end of Bayview.
Oh, okay, I see it now.
And there's a house next door that really should be
Sure, sure.
applying for exactly the
Same
same
thing.
permit.
Okay.
Is it part of that stretch that we were once putting the whole blanket project for?
No,
okay.
no, this is outside of that area.
All right, we got another lease transfer.
Well, no, this is this
Petrie.
Petrie Wolf.
Yeah.
That's the one we've already basically approved. We just needed his daughter's driver's license, which is in there.
There's a driver's license, but it shows.
What's that?
It wasn't approved.
No, but it was, we had discussed it last time, we didn't
But
have.
what do you want from the
didn't have
driver's
all the
license? What are you
information.
looking for on it?
Where does she live?
I think it's
She lives in a
already been
P.O. box.
received. Rick, you looked
Okay, well, that's unfortunate.
They can navigate it.
Should be in there.
You can't buy guns with that driver's license.
There's,
She votes at the fire, I'm against the firehouse?
voter registration card, yeah.
Do you have it? Because I don't remember, let me take a look at it.
Voter's registration card, I think, is one of the
But I don't see her name on it.
accepted documents.
Yeah, but I don't see her name on it.
The lawyer was on it.
Yeah. the
Are
attorney
we
looked at it.
adding the daughter to the lease, or are we transferring the
Transferring.
lease? It's a sale.
Yeah.
So we need a bill of sale, we need the notice in the paper. It's a lot to do.
Well, he
We
says
talked
he's
about that
beginning
last
East
time.
Hampton
Yeah.
Star Publishing.
What was that?
What was that?
He said he's beginning the East Hampton Star Publishing.
Beginning it. Oh. Okay. We shouldn't vote on it until it's been noticed in the paper.
All right, so the information is being gathered, and we'll see what it looks like in 2 weeks.
All right, Three Mile Harbor, application of V. De Los Sueños Partners at 22 Three Mile Harbor Drive for construction of a staircase. Who's on 3 Mile?
I don't remember seeing this before. I don't
Is this brand new?
No, we had just talked about this last month, or
Okay.
last meeting.
Yes, it was on the agenda last.
Did Carl came to the meeting, I believe, Mr. Iris?
Yep. I'm gonna take that as nobody went to look.
I didn't, no.
Okay.
Okay. It's okay to me.
Committee.
I mean, I'll be happy to go. That's not a problem.
Yeah,
Um,
voter ID.
And that will be, I'll go Thursday. So if you want to hand me that, I'll take care of it.
There was another side that didn't get copied.
You guys ready? P&D Hampton's 10 3 Mile Harbor Drive, request from building inspector for CO issue. Let's see, in reference to the above trustee permit concerning the reconstruct and place in kind dock pier at the above referenced property. Please advise if all conditions have been met for the required C of O.
I'll take it. Thursday.
Let's go to, oh, on to administrative. Payment of the bills. North Fork Water Supply, $71.94. Savick and Murray, $1,755. East Hampton Marina, $1,290.
Can I ask what Savick and Murray was for?
That's related to Napeag launching ramp.
Yeah, I think that's gotta go on hold.
Yeah, Jimmy, did we speak with them at all about taking a time out from any further?
No, I'm gonna talk to Jeff tomorrow.
Well, okay.
What's the East Hampton Marina for?
They're working on a boat.
Yeah, engine repairs.
Motion to approve payment of A and C, not B.
Cyber Murray is not going to be paid, is that right? Is it gonna be
Correct,
on
we're
hold?
not gonna pay them yet.
Do you have the invoice for the state right there,
For Savick?
for Savick and Murray?
I do.
They're billing us for?
All right, do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes from February 13th and February 27th.
Yep, I looked at the minutes of the 13th and the 27th, and I also reviewed Diane's changes to those minutes, and I am okay with both of those efforts, and I would like to make a motion to approve them as they are now with Diane's changes.
Second.
I also looked at them, and the changes do make sense.
Yeah.
Fine, and- Thanks.
So,
I second Rick's.
Yeah, you're on a roll.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Report of the clerk. Oh, no, I'm sorry, East End Apparel ordered T-shirts for pump out boat operators.
Hello, everybody. So this is going to be available to our pump-out gentlemen. We'll give them 3 each. This is a breathable golf shirt. It will be navy blue, and it will say Town of East Hampton Trustees. We're gonna forego the logo. It would just take more time, more money. They're like $30 each. And with the okay of the board tonight, I can have these in about 2 weeks. Again, they'll be navy blue, Town of East Hampton Trustees. And I think the guys will look pretty sharp in them. And I like the fact that they are breathable.
Yeah, that's technical
Looks
fabric.
cozy.
Yeah.
Did we get to
So
try
I was,
them for a vote?
I would make a motion that we buy them.
Well,
Yeah.
did you talk to them about navy blue versus wearing white with blue lettering?
No, I didn't. I didn't,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't really want to give
I
them
don't
too
know.
many options. I
Okay.
know that blue
Yeah, but
shows
they're
up
working out
less
in the
dirt,
sun.
and they
Okay.
probably do get kind of greasy and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah.
I know
didn't if
anything
they'd
I
be
buy
hot.
that's white,
Yeah.
forget it.
Okay,
And they
Right,
do
it's hard to
breathe,
keep 'em
so
fresh.
I think we'll be okay.
it'll be okay. All right.
But what's the order quantity,
Yeah.
Brian?
Huh?
How many do you have to order? Is there like a minimum quantity you have to order?
No, I just thought 3 apiece would be adequate.
There you go.
Yeah. So with that, if nobody has any questions, I would like to put the order in for 3 each.
I just want to try it out first.
And what do they come to, Brian?
Uh,
Do you know the bill?
It's $30 each, give or take,
With the
Is there a
embroidery?
minimum order?
with the embroidery.
Is there a minimum with the embroidery, minimum order?
No, I just said I'd like 6 of them, and then she worked me up the numbers. This
Okay,
is
'cause-
East End Apparel here in, on Springs Fireplace.
Because we're talking about hiring another part-timer.
Mhm.
We don't know who or how big or.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think once we get online with them, it'll probably be a lot easier, get them a lot quicker. So, I mean, I know we've done work with them, with the fire department.
Right.
At least
You wouldn't
on-
mind
on
just
my-
confirming that we can just call up and order?
Yeah, add a few
you know,
more.
3 more, that's at any point?
I know for certain that we can. Because
Okay.
I talked to
Okay.
Great.
them about that.
Yeah,
All right.
because they already have your design, and that's great. And
Sure.
then kind of just tackle on extra orders whenever you want, because they have.
So I'll go ahead and order them then. We'll have them in a
Fine
couple
with
of
me.
weeks. All right, great. Thank you.
All right.
Good job.
Actually, just 6 for now.
And this jacket.
$10? No, geez.
All right, so, in starting the search to hire this new part-time person, I had a discussion with our current boat operators. They're coming up with nothing, so we have to run an ad. Okay? We're also gonna have to, you know, decide on the salary and hours. So, we wanna discuss that now, or?
Well, we gave our 2 new guys a raise this year.
We did.
Not 2 new guys, 2 existing guys. I would probably start a new guy with where they were.
Kind of thinking the same thing.
Prior, you're saying,
Prior.
right?
They
Yeah,
raised this year.
Before
And then,
working,
depending upon the availability of the new person, at least,
right.
maybe even 4 days. If he does the 2 days off, that each of the other 2 are off, he'd have 4 days.
Right, and then occasionally fill in for a sick day or
Right,
whatever.
right, yep. Or be an
think that-
extra hand when there's a really busy day, or, excuse me,
Okay, all right, that works for me.
okay.
You're not gonna decide right now on it?
We're gonna run an ad
Okay, but are you gonna decide what the?
on the pay.
bid?
We'll wait on
Well,
that.
Yeah.
When we hire the person, we'll talk to them.
I
Based on
thought we-
experience.
I thought, we-
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, no, we just
I thought you just guys said it was gonna be what they got last year.
Probably.
That's fine with me.
That's okay.
Prior.
Yeah, but, I mean, you could also say that salary is in line with experience. And then, of course, we have our cap. Because if you have a guy that knows what he's doing right from the
How
get-go.
many people have experience doing what we're looking for?
Good point. I'm done. You're right, you're right.
Okay.
I mean, in order to put the ad in, don't you have to say how much you're gonna pay?
I don't think so. No,
You
we'll
don't?
discuss
Not
that.
always.
No.
It's not always.
You know what, I
Yeah,
did notice, Southampton Town's website, or Sag Harbor's, one or the other, was advertising for part-time pump boat operators. So we could see maybe what they're paying, or who they've hired and who they didn't, we could maybe get those names
Good
from.
idea, yeah.
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 Okay.
You can also put something on the website that says we're looking for somebody.
That's an idea.
Yeah, well, that's a start.
And their skill set is opening clams,
Not finding bad smells.
All right,
So are we leaving the
To be
dollar
captain.
amount out?
yes.
Good.
Okay,
You never know.
pay
as
commensurate.
far as the pump out
experience.
vote goes, Sid came in today to discuss the problem he's having with his boat. He's getting water in the fuel tank. Now, he has a double-walled fuel tank. It's a plastic wall on the outside, aluminum tank on the inside. Somehow there's water getting in between and then leaking.
Finding its way in.
Yeah. So what he's proposing for the moment is to put punch a little hole in the outer wall to allow that water to drain out. If that's not gonna work for him, there's a plastic tank available to him that he could set on the deck at the stern of the boat to get through the summer, because to get the tank
This is all
replaced,
below deck.
it's below deck, they have to remove the deck, it's gonna
Big
be a
job.
nightmare.
That may be.
Tanks are a big
Tank.
job.
So I just want you guys to be aware. Hopefully, he'll be able to get through the season with it as is.
All right.
All right.
But nice
But
to
there's a
know
large
that.
repair coming. Okay? And the grant for for a third boat.
Well, it's important in part because if our current fleet is getting older and needs repairs, to have a new boat, even just to rotate in, could be very helpful and important.
Right, yeah,
And
we
and
definitely
the ability to
want get
have
one.
a third boat at peak
You're
times.
looking around $90,000 is
Right,
what the gentleman told me from Rhode Island.
Right.
Yeah.
The previous grant application is in the files.
Who wrote it?
We did.
Okay.
Well, I think the first time we had some assistance from the grants writer. The second time around, we just used that information and we just filled it.
Applied it.
Yeah, so we
Okay.
could probably do that
They're
again.
from New York State Parks and Recreation, or?
No, was it EAF, EFC, what's?
The environmental.
Facilities,
Environmental
EFC.
Facilities Board.
Right, and their application would be printed right off the computer. And you just fill it in.
Was that grant in its entirety?
We got most of it, I think we got almost $60,000 from EFC, and then we got 10-ish from Suffolk County. So it did pretty much cover at that time it was $75,000. It pretty much paid for the
That's
entire
great.
cost of the boat.
Let's try and do it again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, how old are these boats, the ones that we have?
First one.
Whew, the
The second one's not that old.
There's only one person at this table that can
Yeah,
answer that.
yeah.
2003?
The very, very first one is now gone.
Yeah, that-
So the second one,
Right.
and then the last one.
Okay.
The last one was when I was the clerk, so that's 2008.
Right, I think the one
nine.
before that was maybe like 2004.
Yeah, somewhere in
So
there,
2004 and
So-
2009.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay.
I wonder if we can do a trade-in. Yeah, things to look into, well, that makes him, if he's interested in taking one of them off our hands and deducting it from the bill.
Yeah,
the
but
new
we
one.
were looking to have a third boat to expand the service.
Doesn't give us a third.
No, I know. It's needed in Montauk. The guys have told me.
You may have taken the boat we had to decommission, just so we didn't have to pay to have it thrown away,
Right.
taken away, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we're anywhere near decommissioning.
No.
No.
Yeah.
All right, good.
All right, and tomorrow at 5:30, I'm interviewing the intern applicant. Is there anybody who would care to join me?
Intern for,
He's
Oh,
requesting
yes.
an internship for the summer.
to work in
With
the
us.
office?
Yeah,
Does it get paid?
we have to discuss that.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind,
But he offered to do it for free, I believe.
Yeah,
If
5:30?
if
okay,
All right,
you wanna pay him, we can.
There's a lot of
Great.
research that we could probably use help with.
yeah.
I'm available too, if he wants some house there, I don't know. How long is it
I don't know how, long. I mean,
gonna, no,
half hour?
there's have to be somewhere at 6:30, but I'm available at 5:30.
Well, you know where we'll be.
Okay.
All right, correspondence, the invitation from Sofo Oyster Garden reception. We heard about that earlier. Conic Estuary notices. These will be posted on the website?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Anybody who's interested? And we have the notice of aerial spraying for mosquitoes. And-
Yeah, which had Napeag.
And we have Napeag and Accabonac Harbor.
No beach camp.
And that will be one of the spraying.
This
Right,
week.
Thursday, is it?
Looks like they already did, May 18th, 19th. So this is last week's. All right, anybody have anything else?
Just real quick, the new website is being implemented this week, so I will send an email around to everyone once it's up, so you can check it out. So it will be up this week. Thank you.
Good meeting, great.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.